The conflict between the children of day and night, who despised and hated one another, had been ongoing since the mythological era and involved mankind. Conflict persisted up until that point, and evil villains immersed themselves more in hell than in heaven. An attack by Clown Lord Ralph, who seized both the governor's daughter and wife. However, Cassian Lee arrived in time to ask Lord Ralph to release them. In this world, some people were born with exceptional abilities, while others awoke their power and turned to crime out of greed. Those who spilled the blood of the night were referred to as evil. There were also some who carried the blood of light, were known as spikers, and opposed evil. These individuals belonged to a different kind of superhuman and made up the majority faction. Cassian's fight the next morning was widely publicized. The Human Rights Commission had formally filed a motion demanding Lampus disciplinary action, and Top Spiker punished Cassian for his ruthless violence. Tuppence constantly chastised Cassian in the Lampus branch office in Washington, but Cassian told the commander that calling him a villain was too viperish, so the commander requested that he show a little bit of contrition because he had disregarded the plan and acted independently. Ralph's disappearance was good, but the public was looking into it, so Cassian yelled angrily that it was because the scumbags had touched the hostage first. Tuppence, on the other hand, refused to give in, raising his voice and asking Cassian why he didn't behave more cautiously because putting hostages' safety first was the most essential principle. Tuppence then instructed Cassian that if he considered himself a spiker, he should behave and think like one. She informed Cassian that he was on probation and that he should be aware of the consequences if he caused problems during his probation. Infuriated, Cassian left when he got a call from Jeff, so he quickly took a flight to Greece. He began to wonder when he had last seen Jeff. At the time, Cassian was at the orphanage and could see Jeff's strength. It wasn't until late that afternoon that Cassian was able to meet Jeff in his bloody state. Cassian gave Jeff a necklace and urged him to run, but it was too late. Jeff was once again attacked by a pursuer. The individual who attacked Jeff was Jack, who saw Cassian glance at him furiously and explained he was merely dealing with a traitor in the group because Jeff had killed his teammates. Cassian, on the other hand, did not believe this and hurried to fight back, but was defeated so terribly in the end. He had never imagined himself dying in such a way, but he had to revenge Jeff. Cassian awoke in a child's body and had no idea where he was. When he glanced in the bathroom mirror, he saw someone completely different. Cassian had no idea why he had changed into a child and wondered where his actual body was. Now he was having memories that were not his own. At this point, a voice asked him if he was awake and introduced itself as Moros, a noble spirit from ancient times. Cassian was taken aback, not knowing what was in front of him because that object had just popped out of the necklace Jeff had given him. Moros claimed Cassian was dead and that he had acquired Korean from his new body, but Cassian didn't believe Moros and stated it was because he had previously lived in Korea before he was adopted. Cassian secretly thought he was dead. Therefore, how could he return, and did this incident mean anything? Moros said that Jeff was the one who gave Moros to Cassian since Jeff wanted Moros to defend Cassian. Nevertheless, Cassian instantly remembered what Jeff had mentioned before and asked Moros because he was looking for something like a scrap iron sword. It was the Sword of Devastation, Mark, which was made thousands of years ago during a conflict from a mythical era. While speaking with Moros, Cassian pulled out his phone, suddenly discovering that the hero Cassian, who was him, was involved with dirty money. There was also evidence that Jeff died in pursuit of Cassian. Cassian was enraged at this point. He thought it was ridiculous, and it was obviously untrue. Cassian pondered how they dared to make such accusations instead of protecting the innocent, and even drowned him on purpose. Observing that, Moros advised Cassian to be calm because his current path was different. At the same time, a group of people in a nearby town were waiting for information from the person they had beaten to death in the toilet. However, they ultimately received news that the person inside had disappeared, despite the fact that neither an ambulance nor police had arrived. As a result, those people agreed to make the young man half alive later. Cassian dashed to the top of the terrace to avoid the others, wanting Moros to quickly explain why he had turned evil. Moros said that it was because Cassian had resurrected when he was supposed to die, therefore the balance of fate had been distorted. Initially, the owner of Cassian's body would turn bad in the future. In fact, that individual would be a disaster-level potential evil. Then Cassian interrupted Moros and questioned whether his resurrection had caused him to inherit this terrible fate. Cassian couldn't help but find it hilarious that a spiker had suddenly turned bad and even a peril-level villain. Cassian shouted at Moros, asking why it had revived him. Moros advised Cassian to calm down first, as he was certain that Cassian already knew about the villains, whose rational tendencies had been forcibly usurped by desire. As a result, Cassian could definitely feel his own billowing vengeance at this very moment. Cassian didn't want to hear it anymore and told Moros to stop, he'd rather die. Moros seemed to be able to read Cassian's mind, telling him that he should continue living, and if Jeff was here, he'd definitely tell him so. Before Jeff passed away, he expressed guilt for dragging Cassian into this. Even though he knew death was getting near, Jeff had no intention of living but instead gave Cassian the chance to live. Then Moros advised Cassian to calm down, as he was doing right now, and start acting like a normal person. Moros added that once Cassian found the sword of destruction, he would eventually realize everything. Cassian also considered the sword's involvement in Jeff's death. By this point, the kids downstairs had made it to the rooftop and were looking for Cassian. They laughed sinisterly and exclaimed that they were thrilled to see Cassian here. Then one of them stepped up and questioned why, if Cassian wasn't dead, he hadn't reported it instead of sneaking up here. Cassian then asked if they had completed talking because he wasn't interested in interacting with the boys but thought they should be taught a little. Cassian went up without saying much and taught them a lesson one by one with just his bare hands. The boys, who had been severely beaten by Cassian but were still stiff-mouthedly cursing at him. Cassian then said that he was trying to restrain himself but that it didn't seem to be working, so he was going to hit them a little harder. Suddenly, Kim Woo-chang showed up and asked Cassian if he felt that was enough. Cassian responded by asking Woo-chang who he was to interrupt someone else's fight, but Woo-chang just inquired as to what Cassian would receive if he engaged in inappropriate combat. While stopping Cassian, Kim Woo-chan was also caught up in the conflict. Moros warned Cassian that Woo-chang was also a spiker and that, given Cassian's current condition, continuing to fight Woo-chang would not be good. Kim Woo-chan told Cassian to put an end to the battle right away because there was no use in continuing. He then gave Cassian a bandage and said that Cassian's face was injured. Kim Woo-chan was lost in thought as he watched Cassian leave. He had no idea that someone in the school was capable of fighting alone against 3 other men. When Cassian asked Moros how it knew Woo-chan was a spiker, Moros responded that it would be able to sense movement after he connected with Woo-chang. Cassian smiled and said that Moros was perhaps more useful than he had anticipated. Moros claimed that was nothing and that it could save more specific information if it used its appraisal eye. Cassian wondered how Moros knew there was such a thing. As on previous occasions, Moros replied that Cassian was examining and observing the knowledge of this world as a noble soul, and on this occasion, Moros wanted to ask Cassian how he was going to turn into evil. Moros also said that now was the best time for Cassian to find his power, in case he ever needed it. Cassian didn't want to, but he knew he would since he had no other support but this evil power. Cassian asked Moros what he needed to do now that being bad meant losing control of his desires and emotions, but in his case, it looked to be expanding. The identity of the villainous blaster was that he was a madman who liked to blow things up and praised his own craft. He had so far caused 102 casualties. Lee Dae-wung claimed Blaster's fighting prowess was nothing extraordinary, but because Blaster had the capability to make explosions, it became bothersome. Kim Woo-chan, who sat next to Dae-wung, stated that the only solution to the evils was destruction because they were nothing more than antisocial criminals who couldn't manage their own impulses and emotions. Kim Woo-chan said that they needed to pull out the weeds before those individuals acted, and Lee Dae-wung doubted Woo-chan if he understood that every time he mentioned the villains, he looked scary. Thus, Woo-chang reminded Dae-wung that it was a spiker's responsibility to pursue justice. Moros used appraisal eyes to show Cassian his status bar. At the moment, Cassian was known as Quan Kong Woo, a threat-level villain skilled in the dark sword and capable of self-healing. Moros claimed there were skills Cassian could employ, and the wounds on his face had healed swiftly thanks to his ability to heal himself. The two then walked to an empty spot to practice their skills. Moros had expected that Quan Kong Woo would need a few days to master the techniques, but it had never anticipated that Kong Woo would be able to use them straight away. They continued to train until it was dark, and Quan Kong Woo went back to his house. The owner of this body had family members, however, his parents were away, and he lived with a sister who was a wage earner. It appeared that Quan Kong Woo really cared about his sister. On the way, he came across an attack by evil guys who were holding the mother and son captive. Quan Kong Woo couldn't help but go up to save the mother and son. Moros, on the other hand, reminded Cassian of the law that evil could not attack another villain, or he would become the enemy of all evils. Inside the building, the boy cried out in fear. Blaster advised him not to cry since he looked too miserable. Blaster explained that he did this so that everyone could enjoy themselves and that the mother and son should not cry. Blaster then burst into laughter and urged the mother and son to do the same. While Kim Woo-chan stopped at a vacation spot, he thought back to his fight with Kwon Kong-woo and felt caught off guard. At the time, he didn't even know Kong-woo's name. The blaster had only just appeared after the two had been given a mobilization order. Blaster asked the tied child whether he had ever seen 5-color fireworks that exploded in the far reaches of the night sky. The child sobbed and said that he had never seen it, so Blaster remarked he couldn't believe the boy hadn't seen such a lovely sight. What a tragedy. Blaster reached out and rubbed the child's face, assuring him there was nothing to be upset about because Blaster would show the boy something even more beautiful, for it was the boy's lovely mother's blood and flesh, which would explode brilliantly along with the fireworks. Blaster claimed he was now tingling with incredible excitement, and he began to fantasize about whether to start with hands, then legs. He stated he needed to hold the mother's head back as a souvenir, so her neck and breast would be at the end. As soon as Blaster noticed Kwon Kong-woo in the area, he enthusiastically welcomed him and advised him not to be shy, he should just walk right in. Kwon Kong-woo was hit by a bomb as he entered. Everyone below the building heard a big explosion above and wondered when the police and spikers would arrive. Above, Blaster believed he had already defeated Kong-woo and returned to continue torturing the mother and boy. However, Kwon Kong-woo appeared from behind to attack Blaster, and Kwon Kong-woo continued to attack Blaster until he lost control. Moros next to Kong-woo kept shouting his name to assist him wake up, and until Kwon Kong-woo heard Moros's voice, everything around him had been broken. He couldn't believe his eyes as to what the hell had just happened. Moros stated that Kong-woo was in a condition of frenzy and loss of control, that his emotions exploded and exceeded the initial purpose, and that if Kong-woo couldn't regain his senses, he would become a mad guy who only cared about satisfying his desires. After the explosion, Moros was curious to know if Kong-woo was okay. Kwon Kong-woo replied that he was fine and advised them to take care of the hostages first. By the time Kim Woo-chan's party came, the mother and son were safe. The prior incident seemed like a territorial quarrel between the convicts, and according to eyewitnesses, it was an unidentified villain. Kim Woo-chan picked up a teddy bear on the ground, thinking that if they kidnapped even children, only death was the answer for them. Woo-chan now heard people talking about how another villain had saved the captives, but he assumed it was too ludicrous, even if there were so many witnesses. Kim Woo-chan urged the two hostages to come and alert them that this must not be disclosed to anyone. The HR department now played back the previous developments footage. Unable to believe what they saw, they wondered who this man was. They all pondered whether something was wrong with what they saw because it appeared like Kong-soo was saving people. Without saying anything, Kim Woo-chan observed the person inside rescuing people. Kwon Kong-woo got a text from his sister telling him to go home quickly so they could eat supper. When he got home, he saw the food had already filled the table and his sister had left a note. In the note, his sister instructed him to reheat the food and eat it, and she also mentioned that she had bought fruit and put it in the refrigerator. Suddenly, Kwon Kong-woo recalled that Jeff had previously prepared food in this way for him. Kwon Kong-woo took out the bowl to eat the food on the table and thought it was too wonderful. It had been a long time since he had eaten a dish that someone had made for him. The following morning, Kwon Kong-woo woke up early to get ready for school. He looked in the mirror and thought it was him, but it wasn't. It seemed impossible that he was living someone else's life. He expected to feel better after a nap, but he didn't. If possible, Kwon Kong-woo wished to return to the past. Therefore, after hearing Moro's good morning, Kong-woo replied that this morning wasn't pretty. He got dressed and started to walk out the door when his sister yelled back and asked him if he was going to school. Kwon Yuri just woke up and stated that at least if he left, he should have told her. This made Kwon Kong-woo think that talking to his sister in this manner was a little awkward. He debated whether or not to tell her that he wasn't her brother. Kwon Yuri offered Kong-woo a debit card, which the two had discussed previously. She had already deposited her pension money in it and advised Kong-woo to spend it properly. Kong-woo wondered where Yuri had taken this cash card, and so he asked his sister if he might get this month's allowance in advance, but she had only sent it to Kong-woo a week before. As Kong-woo recalled the money that the others had taken, he claimed to have lost his wallet. As a result, Yuri agreed to give him additional money in advance and to make a cash card. At this point, the man who had earlier been knocked back by Kwon Kong-woo was the center of attention in the classroom, so he hammered on the table and asked everyone present if they wanted to die. Quan Kong Wu ignored the image of the guy angrily inquiring where his seat was. At the moment, they were discussing the villain who had caused the city's horror. Everyone assumed that the person in command of that mission was a nasty driver, but another responded that it was not driver, but Vilzone's boss in Gadam County. Quan Kong Wu became interested in their conversation and wondered if Gadam County had Vilzone. After school, Quan Kong Wu was summoned back by Kim Wu Chan, who apologized for not knowing his name and wanted to know how Kong Wu's injuries were. Kong Wu then pointed to the duct tape covering his face and requested that Wu Chan come and look for himself. Earlier in the toilet, when Kong Wu's wound started to heal but he was still wearing a bandage, Moros wondered why. It turned out that Kong Wu would be suspicious if his injury healed too quickly whenever he ran into Wu Chan again. Now that Moros understood, it realized that this youngster must have deep thoughts as well. As Quan Kong Wu asked Wu Chan if anything was wrong and if he wanted to pay the hospital expenses, Wu Chan replied by asking Kong Wu if there was anything else he needed to do in addition to paying the hospital bills. Quan Kong Wu stated he didn't need anything, then left, while Kim Wu Chan's mouth kept repeating the name Quan Kong Wu had just said. Moros asked Kong Wu why the clergyman frightened him and why he departed so quickly. The young man going by the name of Kim Wu Chan had the power of fire, and his bright appearance could make any idol feel ashamed. He also had good academic conduct and a strong sense of justice. He wouldn't overlook any bad guys. Those things made him the newest cleric superstar. Moros claimed Wu Chan was a guy who had everything, so it questioned Quan Kong Wu whether he was jealous, and Wu Chan's ideal role model was someone of similar skill, the high priest Cassian. Moros didn't anticipate Cassian to be Wu Chan's ideal role model, and Quan Kong Wu didn't know what an outlaw cleric like Wu Chan would do in a typical high school either. The two walked and talked, instantly understanding that yesterday's kids were following. Moros muttered quietly that the foolish lads were easy to guess. Then Quan Kong Wu purposefully headed into an alley with numerous villains for those people to follow. Those kids stared at Quan Kong Wu and pointed out that he wasn't astonished at all when he saw them, so whether his brain was waterlogged or not, one of them inquired if Kong Wu was the one who had defeated Ki Hun the day before. However, seeing that Kong Wu was not about to respond, that boy angrily wanted to give Kong Wu 3 seconds to kneel if he didn't want to die. That kid counted to 3, but Quan Kong Wu was still observing that kid. That boy was so furious that he blushed and inquired with his companions about whether or not this type of person also dared to seek a fight, asking Kong Wu if he truly wanted to take a beating. With his hand, Quan Kong Wu abruptly pulled the boy's face away and asked him why he was so close to him with such a painful, awful face. Kong Wu had wanted to be nice with them, but they were actually idiots. After dealing with numerous boys, Kong Wu questioned others who hadn't moved if they were going to just stand still there. Because the person Kong Wu had just hit was a high school Muay Thai runner-up, the others silently laughed, believing that the master had finally arrived and Kong Wu was about to die. These statements reminded Quan Kong Wu of the days when he was also mocked like this. When Jack went to inquire about what everyone was doing, the others laughed and claimed Jack was late. They were re-educating the newbie, so Jack asked why they didn't use protective clothing when fighting. At that time, Cassian, who was also the youngest head graduate from the clergy combat training school, specialized in melee combat and had never been shown to lose to a single opponent in a one-on-one fight. Everyone was shocked that Cassian possessed firepower rather than a mage ability at the time. Back in the present, Quan Kong Wu believed that these hooligan guys were disruptive because there was no one to instruct them. Therefore, if their opponent was stronger, they would not dare to speak up. That was true of everyone in that group, including the bastards. If Cassian had been more powerful back then, Jeff and Kong Wu might have escaped this fate. Cassian would be stronger to be invincible and make the Lampus fear him. Driver noticed on the video that people were entering his area, so he was curious and went outside to check it out. Unexpectedly, the thuggish students yelled at him in unison and then sped away from the scene as the final one continued to sob and yell for everyone to wait. Quan Kong Wu looked coldly at what had just happened, quietly wondering if this person was Driver. Driver approached Kong Wu and inquired if he was unhappy. Driver believed he should help, but he seemed to get it wrong. Driver chuckled loudly and asked Quan Kong Wu if it was okay and if he knew who Driver was. Quan Kong Wu calmly replied that he was Driver and then remained silent. Driver stated that Kong Wu had called out his name so calmly, which greatly hurt his pride. He then pulled out his weapon and declared his intention to attack Kong Wu, saying that if Kong Wu had been in the land of evil, he would have known what was ahead, right? Driver actually approached Kong Wu with his weapon, but Kong Wu had no intention of fighting back. Driver asked Kong Wu if he was startled and then loudly laughed, adding that Driver was only kidding, but if there was a second time, it might actually be the case. Kong Wu glanced at Driver, thinking he was an idiot, and then left. Driver had only heard Kong Wu say he wanted to go home, and Driver hadn't expected to be so neglected one day. Moros claimed what happened was hazardous, and Kong Wu couldn't take on Driver. According to Moros' calculations, Driver's power was equal to Cassian's. When Moros noticed that Kong Wu was silent, he questioned whether he had just met a tough guy and was already shaken. Moros then assured Kong Wu that if he practiced hard, he would soon defeat Driver. Suddenly, Kong Wu asked Moros if it could see Driver's information with the magic eye. Kong Wu reasoned that this was the best way to learn since this was the ideal time to take on a strong man. As he faced the opportunity that life brought to him, he realized that he couldn't afford to pass it up. Driver was unexpectedly struck and had no idea what had happened. Moros rapidly learned that Driver had around 1,000 mana, which was likely 3 times more than Kong Wu's mana. As Moros inquired whether Driver had heard what it had said, Kong Wu just stated that the match would be fascinating. Moros asked if Kong Wu was that sure of himself. Driver then applauded Kong Wu for his performance and ability to parry his strike. This time, Driver was more determined to not take it easy. He gave it a shot, but he didn't anticipate Kong Wu being able to predict his move. This led Driver to question who Jiang Wu was, since there was no reason why he shouldn't have known Kong Wu if Kong Wu was this powerful. Suddenly, a thought flashed across Driver's mind. He pondered if Kong Wu was the one who had beaten Blaster since all of his attacks were guessed by Kong Wu, prompting him to repeatedly chastise, and then Driver asked if Kong Wu was a professional fighter. At this point, Driver realized that Kong Wu was not joking because his fighting style was also very different. Driver also understood that without professional training, an average individual could not be that skilled in battle. At this time, Crow and Black Hand both showed up and demanded what the hell Driver was doing, with Black Hand complaining that Driver was beating Kong Wu too lightly. After Kong Wu noticed this, he asked Driver if he couldn't fight and then summoned his subordinates. Those who had just arrived couldn't stop laughing because Driver was truly defeated. That made Driver wonder how he could have been defeated by an amateur. He asked Kong Wu why he had suddenly come here to fight with him, but it was only because Kong Wu wanted to battle someone a little stronger. Plus, Kong Wu couldn't let a villain kill indiscriminately. Upon hearing this, Driver inquired as to whether Kong Wu was referring to that notorious serial killer, and then Crow declared it wouldn't be wrong to behead the villain. Driver laughed out as it suddenly became clear that he was responsible for the major incident. What fool had spread that rumor? Black Hand, who was standing behind him, assaulted Kong Wu when he wasn't paying attention. However, Kong Wu immediately escaped, realizing they were the filthy villains, and questioned them if their brand was sneaking up on others from behind. Kong Wu then attacked Black Hand once more, which Black Hand deserved. Driver stood outside, his tongue twisted, and inquired if Kong Wu needed to be that strong. Red Eye was astounded to see Kong Wu overcome the third-rank member of the Evil Ward. As someone questioned Kong Wu if he felt spinning and lightheaded, Driver answered that it was because Kong Wu's magical ability, which had previously been limited to 300, had rapidly and excessively risen. The other two listened and were stunned. They must have been rated D as they were only 300. Red Eye wondered how a D-lister could do such feats because Black Hand's strength was far greater than that of a B-lister. Driver stated that it was not surprising that B-class could defeat A-listers. Magical power was not the only factor in wins and losses because Kong Wu's speed and physicality were very good. Additionally, Kong Wu possessed effective fighting skills far beyond Black Hand's abilities. Kong Wu, according to Driver, was an exception, and mechanically, he was referred to as the perfect mechanical apparatus. Driver pulled out a magic stone and asked Kong Wu if he knew what it was. An evil person might develop magical power by undergoing intense training or by using magic stones. Driver gave Kong Wu this because he wanted to make a deal and wanted to beg Kong Wu to capture the serial killer. Kong Wu was now certain that Driver was not the murderer, so he asked Driver why he didn't go hunt the killer himself. Driver smiled and answered that everyone had unspeakable pain. Moros explained to Kong Wu that there were two kinds of magic stones. One that occurred naturally and was known as the yin-yang stone, and another that was man-made and known as the Magic Stone. After listening to Moroz's words and swallowing the magic stone, Kong Wu noticed his magical strength had actually increased. Since he had only recently taken the stone but already sensed a noticeable difference, Kong Wu now understood why the villains were obsessed with magic stones. Through its magical eyes, Moroz observed that even though Kong Wu had only consumed one magic stone, his point total had increased to 50, whereas the magic points of others who had consumed the best stone had only climbed by 5 to 10 points. This meant that Kong Wu's 50-point increase was the biggest ever. That proved that the magic stone indeed worked, even on a disaster subordinate. Furthermore, Kong Wu's current hidden skill appeared to be the extraction of magic stones, which was more accurate than removing them from weapons, including those made of yin-yang stones. Moroz suggested that maybe it wasn't just Kong Wu who could do this and that it also meant he could make as many magic stones as he wanted. Kong Wu then inquired as to where he could find weapons created from magic stones. Li Daewang laughed in a diner as he clutched an outstanding sword in his hand, claiming it finally belonged to him. The blade even had the outstanding moniker, Great Hero and Crouching Tiger. It was constructed of at least 2 magical stones of exceptional quality. Wu Chan urged Daewang to set the sword aside because he wanted to ask if Daewang knew anything about the villain who had fought the blaster. However, Daewang had searched for it but didn't have any information, therefore that person was perhaps a recently awakened villain. Wu Chan spoke up, saying maybe that individual was ever an undiscovered cleric, but Daewang responded firmly that he did not believe so, adding that the individual's appearance and traits were unmistakably evil. The two changed the subject to the serial murderer, and he asked if that person was driver, and if it was a high-end sports car or some type of phone device. Daewang urged Wu Chan to pay attention to his sister for a bit since he had given her a curfew. Kong Wu believed that 3 people had died thus far, and although driver's offer didn't concern him, this killer was clearly a cold-blooded individual, and Kong Wu couldn't sit back and do nothing with him. Kong Wu told Moroz that finding the murderer would be difficult without knowing the motive. The only information available was that the murders all took place in Gamam County. Moroz asked Kong Wu what else he had received from Driver. Driver had previously stated that the two needed a way to connect, so Driver created a device for phoning and texting. Driver assured Kong Wu that he could use it without worrying because it did not contain a GPS tracker and that he would use it to send Kong Wu information about the murderer. Driver also said that Kong Wu could text or call him at any time and that he would help him find the killer. Now that he was holding the device in his hands, Kong Wu told Moroz that he couldn't do it because he also had his own self-respect and couldn't share information with an evil person. He also could not stay still and walked outside because his legs should at least move even if his brain didn't. Wu Chan's sister, on the other side, listened to her brother and returned before curfew. The friend next to her hesitantly asked if she couldn't stay for a little while longer. Na-eun Kim noticed something out of the ordinary and didn't leave for a moment before asking her buddy what was wrong. Min Young-an stated she had witnessed the murder of a female schoolmate a few days ago. Since it was still possible for them to contact the police, Eun Kim urged her friend to go quickly because, if her friend had seen it, they must be in danger. No matter how quickly the two girls made the move, they were halted as soon as they reached the door, and at the same time, Kong Wu got a message from Driver. The two had not expected to face a villain. Na-eun Kim believed this guy was probably the killer Min Young had seen. Min Young was now scared to hide behind him and asked Eun Kim what they should do. Eun Kim suddenly recalled Kim Wu Chan requesting her to bring an emergency bell and telling her not to press it for fun but only in times of trouble so that her brother might find her right away. Na-eun Kim therefore kept ringing the bell, convinced that her brother needed to arrive now because this was no joke. The man then glanced at the two of them and said they appeared exhausted. What a pitiful creature. He said he would give the two of them a gift, which was eternal sleep. When Na-eun Kim yelled at him to stop talking, she referred to him as a crazy guy. She screamed angrily that eternal sleep could suit him better, therefore he should keep it. As soon as that man heard her words, he chastised her for being a messy dick. Na-eun Kim reasoned that she needed to buy time until her brother came, so she asked him in hushed tones why he had done these things. He replied that her query was too strange and that pursuing something he enjoyed for a reason was needless. Hearing that, Eun Kim wondered what the heck that man was talking about. What a sick man. The villain then continued, claiming he would reply to her innocent question. He explained that the reason was because the taste of fresh blood and every component of the body were the most amazing things to have ever existed. Upon hearing that two females were shaking, Na-eun Kim told that guy not to approach her brother since he was very strong. Seeing this, that guy laughed and asked her brother what it would be like to witness his sister's bloodless corpse. After saying so, he attacked the friend next to Eun Kim, then turned his attention to Na-eun Kim, but fortunately for her, Kong Woo came in time to stop that man. The villain thought he had never seen such skills. It occurred to him that he might be the one who defeated Blaster. He turned his back and left, saying that he would forgive everyone today. But don't think that's it, because you will die in his arms, die sweetly. Kong Woo was about to give chase when Na-eun Kim asked him to please save her friend. On the other side, Woo Chan received the emergency bell and wondered if his sister might have pressed the wrong one. But if that's the case, then his sister will definitely call him back. She's not the one to make jokes about this. Lee Dae-wong said that he had alerted the police at that place and must have arrived soon. Kong Woo called an ambulance to help the two. He tells Na-eun Kim that the ambulance is on its way. First they need to stop the wound from bleeding. He asked Moros to check on the little girl's condition. It said this was simple, no need to use divine eye, the wound was not life-threatening. Kong Woo told Na-eun Kim that if the girl was treated in time, she would be fine. He also performed first aid and left the doctor to take care of the rest. Kong Woo left. He needed to track down the villain who ran away. Moros says those two kids are lucky, if he didn't get here in time they would be dead. Kong Woo secretly said that obnoxious thing had been bothering him ever since. He waved his hand to destroy a nearby flying device. Raven laughed and appeared to say that the two of you had met again. She tells him Driver uses these machines to track down the killer wherever he can. Thanks to that, they learned that the killer was Bloodrain. He is wandering around this country and committing many barbaric murders. Driver also gave him a box. He said he will explain the details when the deal is over. He received the box from Raven unexpectedly. Inside was the finest magic stone. Television today started reporting on last night's incident. The serial killer continued to act. Fortunately, the missionary arrived in time without any casualties. After hearing this news, Kwan Yuri reminded him to be careful when going out. Kong Woo said goodbye to his sister and went to school with his backpack. He had owned Kong Woo's body for a while. Now he needed to become stronger to get revenge on Lampus. But he didn't know how much he could trust this strange thing. The deal he agreed to with the villains was making himself even more tense. Before that, Kong Woo couldn't believe his eyes and asked Raven to give him 3 top magic stones, and this was only part of the promise. Raven also said she felt a bit too much, but that guy was strong. With his current magic power, you won't be able to defeat him. She added that there is also a micro GPS tracking device created by Driver, which he can use when he wants. Driver has also compiled a list of places where Bloodrain has appeared. Honestly, she didn't expect much from him either, but if he dared to disappoint Driver, it wouldn't be over. Kong Woo recalled silently, saying what the hell they were doing. Moros saw the direction he was taking to remind him that this was not the way to school. Kong Woo said he had a place to go. Looking at the data that Driver sent, Sowei High School is a very interesting place. The 2 girls who were followed by the villain yesterday are also studying at that school. However, what was bothering him was that the girl was Woo Chan's younger sister. On the other side, Woo Chan told Lee Dae-wong that the villain was the one who saved the 2 children. He said it seemed to be the same person last time, and this time it was the same person. Both of them found it difficult to understand if being a villain would be a madman who lost his mind, but one would save people time and time again. Kong Woo stopped by a convenience store near the school to check on the situation. He discovered that on the desk of the store clerk there was a book called Korin's Bride. At this time, Kong Woo paid more attention to the young man. At the same time, an aunt came to ask for scrap paper from the store. The young man without hesitation ran to help his aunt. When Kong Woo just walked out the door, Moros had something to tell him. Didn't wait to say that he said it. Was it going to say that the employee just now was a villain? When he looked into the bastard's eyes he knew, but Moros wasn't sure if it was Bloodrain or not. Kong Woo talked about the book, Bride of Corinth, which is a classic about vampires. He remembered what he said before the villain left. You will die in your hands. He had heard this line somewhere and was a line in a novel. Moros appeared surprised that he remembered all this. Kong Woo said he read a few books in the orphanage. He laughed and told him to hurry and see who they were aiming for, to see if it was that person. The 2 followed in the footsteps of the staff in the store. Moros wonders if this isn't the way to Sowa Girls High School. After going a part of the way, Kong Woo lost track of an old man from danger. Soon after that, Kong Woo chose a place not far away to transform. There was no roof around here to approach him using the magic stone temporarily. Moros again used his magic eye to check the information. By absorbing the magic stone, he gained 2 more skills, Black Hidden and Dark Shadow, but 3 magic stones only exchanged 120 points. Moros says his body has developed resistance to magic crystals. Next time using another magic stone it will decrease even more. After a while, he saw only a few small changes. Na-eun Kim, while watching Min Young, looked up the information of the person who saved her the previous day on her phone, but all those villains did not have Kong Woo. Outside came 3 medical staff saying that Min Young needed to go do some health checkup tests. Those 3 said it was really important. If she could replace the guardian accompanying her, that would be great. Kong Woo, thanks to 2 new skills, he can now link the Dark Shadow and the Dark Shadow together and use it. Moros next to him kept saying that it was not good for him to do that. Along the way, it noticed that his magic usage was very strong, so he used it more cautiously. Kong Woo said it started grumbling again, but it seems it is. He also thinks he used a bit too much, but that damn bloodrain. He was actually heading to the hospital where that girl was hospitalized yesterday. Fortunately, he had quickly attached the GPS to him before, and now the 2 of them were able to detect the location. Na-eun Kim suspiciously asked the medical staff why the health check had put the patient in the ambulance. The person said that this is a very important test that cannot be done inside the hospital. Bloodrain appeared from behind him saying it was a test of loyalty. He laughed and said it was good to see her again and that she would die in his arms. Na-eun Kim shouted that the villain called the 3 medical staff in the back to run away. The 3 medical staff at this time also showed their faces. He said they only followed his orders. And he can turn her into a docile puppet just like them. But when he tried, it didn't work, her will was too strong. She overcame the human instincts of fear and terror. Bloodrain said she was very suitable to be his bride. At this time, a powerful force appeared behind the 2 of them. Kong Woo attacked Bloodrain and fell to the ground. He said it seemed that he had lived so far with his despicable lust, now it was time to pay the price. Bloodrain laughed uncomprehendingly. He asked him if he found it funny. Of course he was happy that no one could beat him, because he was just that. Kong Woo asked what the hell he was talking about, you crazy bastard. He answered him by turning into blood for a moment and then disappearing. Moros said this guy's skills are really annoying, physical attacks don't work when he turns into blood. Kong Woo secretly cursed if he could still use fire magic like before, he would definitely end his life. The medical staff also regained consciousness and asked each other why they were here. Moros told him the hypnotic magic had worn off on them. Kong Woo asked them to quickly move the patient to a safe place. Those 3 people only noticed him now, shouted at the villain at the same time and ran away. Kong Woo also quickly ran after Bloodrain, he must not have gone far. He told Moros they had to catch him quickly. But unexpectedly, Lee Dae-wung and Wu Chan blocked the way and did not let them go. The first thing Lee Dae-wung does when he encounters a villain is to attack. Kong Woo easily dodged, just want to stop him. He yelled for the 2 of them to get out of the way and not to bother him. Lee Dae-wung asked Wu Chan why he didn't attack but stood still. He was remembering his sister who said he was the one who saved her. Lee Dae-wung shouted for him to quickly attack the evil that is the evil that must be destroyed. Kong Woo cursed inwardly, it really pissed him off, there was obviously more important matter. Lee Dae-wung told him to give him a finishing blow now. Fortunately, this blow was hit to the side by Wu Chan, making him run away. Bloodrain was constantly scolding on the way to escape. It's that bastard who messed up his plans. Now the whole throat feels dry, the body is full of wounds. He passed a club thinking it looked delicious, to quench his bloodlust. Seeing him covered in blood, a kind girl asked him if he was injured anywhere. It wasn't long before Lee Dae-wung received the notice. A massacre happened at the Gaddam Army Red Juice Club, 3rd Street Station area. A villain, identified as Bloodrain, is causing the people to panic. After listening to this, Lee Dae-wung accelerated the car, silently cursing that guy, is he really out of his mind? Wu Chan sat next to him and asked him what was going on. Lee Dae-wung said that Bloodrain is terrorizing the people again, I don't know how many times. His words reminded him of earlier when he visited his sister. Kim Na-eun told her brother that he saved her again. At this moment, Moros looked at Kong Woo's wound and said that it was fortunate that it was not a serious injury, it was not like him at all. Kong Woo looked at him puzzled and asked why he said he didn't look like him. Moros says he fights differently when the person he's facing is a villain, but with clerics he's extremely gentle. Kong Wu was silent for a moment and then said he won't be like that again because his enemies aren't just villains. Moros looked at Kong Wu's wound, it also quickly healed. When the two Li Daewang arrived, Bloodrain was still there. He was gently drinking a glass of blood and said he was finally feeling a little better. Li Daewang angrily shouted he was a fucking crazy maniac. He motioned for the two to be quiet for a moment, he didn't want his recovery time to be interrupted. Li Daewang watched Wu Chan secretly plan that they would save the survivors first. Bloodrain looked at the attacking Wu Chan and complimented his skill well. But it would be useless, he couldn't harm him with that much strength. Wu Chan thought to himself, since when did he become so strong? He constantly received many attacks from him. Wu Chan's just missed punch made him laugh out loud a bit hastily. If that hit had hit him, perhaps even his bones would have been split in half. He thought to himself that this bastard was too strong. If he couldn't use fire magic, he wouldn't be able to escape him. Bloodrain looked at him for a moment and then said he looked angry and helpless. He knew he was worried about the hostages and couldn't use his full strength. He went on to say that his younger sister Kim Na-eun is a model. The brave and lovely little girl really got him a trick. The girl made him think that the villain was his brother and she would receive punishment for daring to deceive him. Wu Chan angrily says if he dares to touch his sister, he will kill him. Bloodrain laughed thinking that the brat was trapped, he would taste the blood of an angry cleric. It will definitely be a special scent. He said he is full of confidence and he will give him a chance to prove it. He brought Wu Chan up to the roof of the building saying that this place was able to use its full power. In his mind Bloodrain thought if no one was around, under the night sky he could taste this cleric's blood as he pleased. When Kong Wu went to the place, he only found Li Daewang unconscious on the ground. Moros knew the intention to go to check and then announced that he was still alive. The two discover his sword as a magical weapon. Moros asks Kong Wu this is a good opportunity, quickly extract the magic crystal from the weapon. After obtaining those two magic stones, his strength increased quite a bit. A group of demons stood not far away watching Bloodrain beat Wu Chan. They asked each other when Kong Wu will come. One of them answered very quickly. Bloodrain told Wu Chan this little fire couldn't make him feel any pain. He looks so weak and pitiful. But there's no need to blame yourself for that weakness either because he'll make him part of his body. He laughed at Wu Chan like he could live forever. Kong Wu appeared and scolded him for a crazy sick man, stop saying such nonsense. Because in your eyes Bloodrain was just a perverted mosquito. He asks if it's still this damn leech, you always interrupt his enjoyment times. Kong Wu said that for someone who was defeated time and time again, he definitely liked it better. Hearing this, Bloodrain laughed loudly because his body was already at a new level. He had absorbed dozens of people and their blood had awakened him. This arrogant power is invincible, an S-rank cleric can't even do anything to him. He was about to attack Kong Wu and asked him to see his invincible power. Wu Chan sitting next to him silently scolded this bastard for not using his full strength when fighting him. He did not expect all of his attacks to be seen and blocked by Kong Wu. He asks him to show him his invincibility, or else there will be no chance. Wu Chan also felt that Kong Wu was completely different from when he was in the hospital. Was he also hiding his strength? Bloodrain says he doesn't know what happened during this time, but he admits he's stronger. But you will never catch him with a physical attack. He softly said there won't be another mosquito, he will burn him with all he has. The moment he said that sentence, Kong Wu seemed to be one with Cassian before. The news bulletin tells about the incident last night. The name Bloodrain, responsible for the massacre, was captured after a fierce battle. The villain was no ordinary man, but missionary Wu Chan defeated him. Li Daewang, who was lying on the hospital bed next to him, praised him for being good at his job. He didn't dare to think about what would happen if he didn't catch him. Wu Chan whispered that he couldn't catch that guy, he only contacted headquarters after the match ended. Wu Chan was surprised at Kong Wu's burning ability, apparently he had the power of darkness. The dual attribute that he had never heard of. Wu Chan made it clear to them that he was not the one who caught him, but they reported to the authorities that the person who caught him was him. Surprised Li Daewang could be the one who fought Blaster last time. It was true, he admitted, that he was the one who defeated Bloodrain. He asked if he was feeling guilty for not being the one to do it, he asked him not to worry about it anymore. Then suddenly remembering his sword. Li Daewang asked where it is now. All over the school, people were talking about last night's incident. Moros says everyone is haunted by that event. Kong Wu said he should take some time to meet the drivers. He wanted to receive something other than the reward they were talking about. Driver's residence also welcomed a few guests today. Driver asked if the three who had just arrived had seen Kong Wu during the battle. Royal said of course he had seen everything, and he was watching intently as if he were watching a movie. Driver wants them to give a comment, rate how. Royal, holding the cake in his hand, said that the main actor was very unique, like a mysterious bright black diamond. Suddenly Royal asked Driver if he knew from the beginning that Kong Wu had dual attributes. Driver laughed and said now that he knew. This answer surprised everyone present. Driver just thinks Kong Wu is different from some other villains. Royal said a villain with dual attributes he had never heard of. In fact, there are surnames that existed for a long time in the Age of Myths. The Wicked Zone exists not to imprison the wicked. It's to avoid wars between the wicked and the clergy, within which the villains can operate freely. Kong Wu couldn't get used to this place no matter how many times he came. Driver, standing from above looking at Kong Wu, said he arrived quite on time. His aura this time was also different from when they first met. Driver brought him a glass of grapefruit juice and asked him to drink it, and he would take him on a tour of this evil area. He also did not forget to give Kong Wu 2 magic stones as a reward. Driver watched his magic increase significantly. He asked him if it was because of the stone or something. Kong Wu was indifferent. Where did he get so many magic stones? Driver thought to himself, where did this name come from? The last time he came here, he only had 300 magic points, but now it's over 500. He knew his magic couldn't increase that fast just based on the number of stones he gave him. Driver thinks this has something to do with the double attribute. Kong Wu was really curious where he got so many magic stones. Yu Chai Ha, holding a bottle of wine in the bartender, said he took the magic stone from him. Then hand out a dish that says it's free food for that special someone. What Kong Wu is most interested in right now is can he buy magic stones from Yu Chai Ha. He said yes, of course, if you were a member of this evil zone. Driver says he just needs to reside in the residential area of the villainous area. He would take a test to see if he would succeed in becoming the master. Kong Wu expressed indifference that he was interested in how to become stronger. The rest did not want to care. The real diver took Kong Wu on a tour of the villain's area. He introduced him to everyone he met along the way. In front of them was Dirt Dog, who got his name because he loves digging. The people in the back prefer to be clean. He is a cleaning maniac. Just seeing a speck of dust can't sit still. Both of them are lunatics but do no harm to anyone. Although not harmful to humans, they can still cause material damage. Driver says that's why they need a place like the evil zone. Kong Wu secretly thought they were different from the villains he had faced so far. Kong Wu suddenly asked him why he wanted him to capture Bloodrain. Driver said because he needed a traitor. To destroy the traitor he needed someone unrelated to him and the villainous region, like you. Driver didn't stop and continued to say that maybe he didn't know that just like priests, there are many types of villains. Those who follow the rules and those who defy the rules only do what they want. Kong Wu asked him if there was a relationship between Bloodrain and the villainous and traitor areas. Driver says Bloodrain is nothing more than a traitor's piece. He certainly has something more sinister behind him, because their ultimate goal is to destroy the evil zone. Kong Wu said those things have nothing to do with him. Driver knows he will say the same thing anyway. That's also the reason why he likes you. He says again you should become a member of the evil zone. Driver swears by the honor of a villain. These are all his sincere words. On the way back, Kong Wu unexpectedly encountered the villain he beat the day before. Today he came to take revenge to regain his honor. At this time, Ju-ak appeared in time to prevent people from attacking people in the evil area. Quan Yuri's older sister held in her hand a letter proposed in the morning to find Kong Wu but went to sleep. She remembered what the director said this morning. They recognized her hard work and ability, so they wanted to invite her to further training at the US headquarters. The next morning Kong Wu got up early to practice. Next to Moro's asked was a sandbag, a classic training method. Kong Wu said this is the best for improving both strength and endurance. From now on he needed to focus on not only 1v1 but 1v100 as well, so endurance was the most important thing. Remembering before that the villain who wanted to hit him asked if he needed to pass the test. Everyone who was with him at that time showed disdain for Kong Wu to not come. Kong Wu then announced to them that he would come take the test after 10 days. Ju-ak said the welcome ceremony will take place in the next 10 days. The match will be one-on-one and killing is prohibited except in case of force majeure, and his first opponent is also her, Ju-ak. Although Kong Wu doesn't care much about joining the villainous zone. But if he was to become stronger so that he could get revenge on Lampus, he would choose this path even if it meant going to hell. After practicing, Kong Wu returned to the bathroom and still didn't see his sister appearing, thinking that she was still sleeping. Seeing a mess on the table, Kong Wu went to clean it up and found a letter that fell out of his pocket. Quan Yuri came out and saw him holding the letter and angrily asked him what he was looking at. Kong Wu calmly said that it seems to be a letter from America. When her sister heard him say that, she comforted her that she would not go anywhere. "You told your sister to just go, you'll be fine alone." Kong Wu thought to himself that he would be more comfortable that way. Moros asked him if he was really going to send his sister to America. Kong Wu said that it was a good chance that would be good for both of them. He paused for a moment and then continued. He said this sentence not in the name of Cassian but as Kong Wu. Moros asked if it was okay if he was alone. "Of course it's fine when you were in America, didn't you live alone too?" Moros asked because Kong Wu was searching on the computer how to cook rice. That day while drunk, Quan Yuri talked a lot and finally decided to go to America. She said that when he was a child, he always followed in her sister's footsteps, but it seems that he is mature enough now to take care of this older sister. This quote from his sister reminded him of Jeff. He also said that he was mature enough to take care of him, but in the end couldn't protect him. Before leaving, his sister told him many things not to skip meals. "I will check every morning and evening so you have to answer the phone." She also told him to break the door carefully. Everyone knows how scary this world is right now. Kong Wu also told his sister to be careful. If something happened to her, he would fly straight to America. After taking his sister to the airport, Kong Wu quickly returned to take the test. Ju-ak says he will win the match if one side surrenders or is no longer able to fight, and he will have 3 turns. Driver said they will accept all participants, so if you lose there will be no penalty, just you will lose the right to challenge him, the ruler of the evil zone. Moros worriedly asked Kong Wu to calm down and not fall into the trap of his opponent. He knew Ju-ak was no ordinary martial artist with enduring strength. She was a close combat master with a body trained for combat, but despite her physical appearance, Kong Wu was able to defeat her in a short time in battle. Everyone there felt unbelievable that he could defeat Ju-ak. She is one of the best stamina and endurance in the evil zone. Kong Wu tells them not to waste his time, whoever fights next comes up. Red Eye comes up and says he only defeated one person, so don't be so cocky. The greatest hunter of the Red Eye evil zone will be his next opponent. Now somewhere else a mysterious person said nothing would happen, no need to worry about Bloodrain's case. She didn't expect anything from that bastard anyway. And the same evil of Gadam district will soon fall. She asked the person on the other end of the phone to trust her. She made sure everything would go his way. Back in the match again, Kong Wu easily defeated Red Eye. Kong Wu asked him this was just a normal duel, how could he give up so easily? He said he had no intention of becoming a rival to him in the first place. But Driver had asked him one thing, he didn't want anyone to get hurt too badly. Red Eye gives him the lust-suppressing patch, which all the villains here have. Just stick it under the ear and it will be effective immediately. It matches the skin color so it is difficult to detect. Kong Wu had seen it used to inject villains, but this was the first time he saw it in the form of a patch. His final opponent will probably be the Black Hand. He is quite impulsive but also cute, so he wants him to not be too strong. While the two were talking, Ju-ak was talking to the Black Hand. They want to unite and fight the Kong Wu Council because they don't want to give him the title of Supreme of the Wicked Region. The Black Hands who still wanted him to fight made Ju-ak angry. She asked him if he didn't mind that Driver favored Kong Wu more. She also brought here like-minded companions for this battle. On the flight to the US of Quan Yuri, she was still worried about her brother. When it was time to eat, the food was presented beautifully, but Quan Yuri still just stared at the clock, seeing how long it took to arrive. Looking at the food in front of Quan Yuri, she wondered if her brother had eaten the right meal. At this time, on the other side, Red Eye brought Kong Wu a bag of food asking him to eat quickly. When he left, you started to bring out the food. He said it was good for health. Moros, as suspicious as he was, asked if he had any other motives. Kong Wu said earlier that Jeff had told him to be wary of altruistic people. The dark-faced Black Hand went to find Kong Wu. As expected, he is Kong Wu's next opponent. He went angry and asked what he did to Driver. Kong Wu looked at him confused. Black Hand shouted once more to ask what he did to Driver. Just as he finished speaking, a few more people appeared and attacked in quick succession. Kong Wu calmly thought they were trying to counterattack the council. That's cool. He asked them if they didn't fight him back, so they had to invite a whole council to come here. They were trying to make up for their weak skills with numbers. The crowd kept turning around to attack. Juak asked him if 3 people was still not enough. Driver leisurely using water on a nearby tall building, wondering why it took so long to come back. He told Raven that when he thought about it, Kong Wu didn't even have a name, or he had one. She said he had given so much attention to that black duck, she was also starting to feel jealous. She wanted him to use that care for her, she would return it 1,000,000 times over. Driver didn't pay attention to Raven's words, he was still whispering to himself which name would be appropriate. The people inside the match were attacked by Kong Wu in turn. Black Hand didn't expect him to be defeated like this by a nameless little pawn. Everyone silently cursed. Where did this monster come from? Pointer said that Kong Wu is not the same simple person as he thought. Hearing this, Hammerboy replied that the stronger the prey, the more it aroused the hunter's interest. Mortos reminded Kong Wu that they were continuing to come. You stand there waiting for them to fly and fly forever. Pointer heard that and shouted, asking who he called a fly. At this time, a person from afar came running and said that Kong Wu was his. He will execute justice for the sake and peace of Villezone. At this time, all those people ran up and shouted at the same time to hunt together. Pointer said he would let him taste the sensation of a barbecue. Everyone there paused to watch the fire that Pointer was making. He told everyone not to stand there and time it to attack. Pointer's attacks are extremely quick and decisive. Everyone there couldn't keep up. They couldn't even see a fleeting moment of hesitation from him. Angry Kong Wu used all his strength to attack them. It would be better to make them shout that they were the ones being hunted. Binder took advantage of Kong Wu's inattentiveness and threw the net. She laughed and said she knew he would eventually fall into the net. She mysteriously said he would never get out. Not only the body was bound, but even the desire and inner connection did not escape. Taking this opportunity, a bunch of people went up to attack Kong Wu. In the most helpless moment, he heard Kong Wu's own voice. He said he was too weak just like that to take his body. Driver also quickly arrived, but things were not as he thought. Looking at the scene unfolding before his eyes, Raven asked if Driver was a little too far off. Driver said it would be great if it did, but it would be troublesome if a lot of people were injured. After a while, the 3 of them felt a great power emanating from them. Driver silently said it seems like something really happened. The crowd gathered around Kong Wu was also amazed, the connection was severed. Juak rushed from behind to tell everyone not to flinch, they just need to crush Kong Wu again, but they didn't get a chance to approach him, they were all blown away. Juak looked at everyone lying on the ground cursing madly. Kong Wu now shouted loudly because he couldn't die here because of revenge. Even the quiet Red-Eye couldn't believe his eyes and asked if it was a black duck. Driver looked at him and said his mana points are already over 2,000. The 3 people standing in the distance all felt panic at the same time. That was a disaster grade score. Raven asked the 2 people next to him what to do. It would be dangerous to leave Kong Wu like that. Moros over here kept calling Kong Wu's name, wanting him to wake up. Your authority can only come to this. Where is the warrior spirit you have always been proud of? After a while, Kong Wu whispered that he was awake. Moros thought he lost himself and couldn't come back. Kong Wu told him not to underestimate his strength. The 3 people outside were also relieved to see Kong Wu back to normal. Raven expressed regret that she never had the opportunity to witness his full strength. Black Hand at this time also went to admit defeat with Kong Wu. Juak asked him who gave him that right. If you want to admit defeat, then accept it yourself. Black Hand angrily told her to shut up. Losing to him was already humiliating and she refused to admit defeat. Quan Yuri very quickly arrived at Philadelphia International Airport. Taking out his phone to call his brother, he thought maybe Kong Wu was already asleep by now. Quan Yuri went to meet the manager who was waiting outside. He told her to call him Sean, asking if she wanted to go to the shelter first. Quan Yuri thanked him and got into the car together. She was curious about what kind of person the hotel manager is. He told her that the person was currently on a business trip. About 10 days later the 2 of them would be able to meet. Quan Yuri talked to Sane while thinking that from now on she must do her best. While unconscious after the match, Kong Wu dreamed back to when he was at the HC orphanage. At that time he told Jeff that he would become a spiker like him. Jeff teasingly asked him if he didn't want to be a cool villain. He sat for a while and asked again why Kong Wu wanted to be a spiker. Kong Wu laughs and jokes because he always fights for justice. Jeff also laughs for justice, he's such a kid. Jeff then seriously called his name and asked him to listen carefully to what he said. The truth is, not every spiker is on the side of justice. Kong Wu curiously asked him who stood for justice or a villain. It's someone who fights for justice. He asks him not to mindlessly believe in things he takes for granted. What you believe to be fair may very well be different from what you call true justice, and let's become a real doer of right things. When he regained consciousness, Driver announced that he was going to be Vilzone's boss. They needed someone with the same power and charisma as Kong Wu. He didn't want to agree because many people would find him an eyesore. Driver says he believes in his beliefs again and no one can change his decision. Driver notices that he has also come up with a bad name for him, which is Cassian. Seeing Kong Wu staring intently at the plane in the sky, Moros asked him if he was worried about his sister. So far it hasn't asked, but it wants to know if it's because of strength that you decided to join Vilzone. Kong Wu calmly said that having strength is not a bad thing. If there were a few more brilliant allies to stand by, but first he needed to become stronger. Kong Wu felt that the more he moved his body, the stronger he became, and the more skills he used, the more he tamed it. As long as the Lampus are still active out there, the only way for him to train his heart is to join Vilzone. He didn't know if this was due to the potential of a disaster-class villain. But thanks to it, he even acquired a dual attribute that was never known before. If he forges properly, he will take the first step in his revenge journey. Moros said they would also discover the whereabouts of sword destruction Jeff was trying to find. Seeing that Kong Wu didn't reply to Moro's scolding, did he forget about this already? Kong Wu stood looking at the high sky in front of him and whispered that he really became Vilzone's boss. Driver came to him asking if he had nothing else to do but practice all day. He said there was an urgent meeting coming up about those who were detained in the punishment room who had escaped. It's not a problem that they run away, it's a matter of where they're headed. Ju Ak is now in a secret place being scolded. She messed up everything and almost lost her life, but now she dares to bring this face back. They look like useless people. The girl sitting at the top looked down and smiled and said that Gadam district has changed king anyway. Looks like that pretentious driver name is also obsolete from now on. Vilzone Gadam district has about 400 residents, in which there are about 100 villains, the rest are petty thieves and homeless people. Because they live with evil people, they are now thousands of miles away from the other two words, normal. Ju Ak and Pointer are the ones who escaped from the punishment room, they are confirmed to have moved together. And after fleeing they headed towards Vilzone in Boksan district. Kong Wu asked the 4 Vilzones in Seoul why they were heading to the area in Boksan. Driver said because the relationship between the two parties is not good. Those people were eager to find an opportunity to attack Gadam district. Even after being kindly warned several times, they continued to turn a blind eye to the situation. The boss of Boksan district is Barracuda. He is a fierce and ferocious S-rank villain, always just waiting to get into a fight. Driver tells everyone not to panic just because he's an S-rank, he's all plaything. Barracuda's fangs are his most valuable weapon. There were also rumors that he possessed an actual magic crystal. Compared to them, the other side's numbers were much more overwhelming and it wasn't a problem here that there were high-ranking villains. Red Eye said that if those people were to attack, even if their limbs were faster than their brains, they wouldn't be able to attack without a good reason. Crow laughed and said that it only takes a good day to come up with a reason that sounds reasonable. For example, they can say that the villains of Gadam district are a bunch of incompetent people. Driver thought for a moment and then said it was true that there have been such incidents. But even if the two sides go head-to-head, they are unlikely to lose. Driver looks to Kong Wu because they have a trusted secret weapon. At the same time, Barracuda releases a prisoner and says that Gadam district has many interesting things for him. Kim Na-eun and Min Young arranged to meet her brother outside the bookstore. Min Young did not forget to prepare a thank you gift. Min Young gives a gift to Kim Na-eun saying that a cute girl gives love to receive love in return. When she entered the bookstore, Kim Na-eun held the book up to her nose to smell it. Min Young curiously asked what she was doing, and picked up a book to smell it herself. Na-eun said there is still a book she wants to buy, so she will go looking for it and come back right away. Kim Young ran after her and asked her what book she was looking for. It was a cookbook. Your brother needs it to learn how to cook, but it's only available in stores. Na-eun is overjoyed to find the book, a super easy Korean delicacy. But someone quickly took the book away first. Kong Wu intends to win her back, but when he sees Na-eun, he immediately remembers her as the girl that day. He thought to himself that she seemed to be fine now. Kong Wu handed her the book and told her to take it away. Moros looked at the book in the hands of another person and was sad that he could no longer have delicious homemade food. Kong Wu went to find the staff. He told him to ask the staff what about the stock. The people who used to talk to Kong Wu were now bored sitting in an alley. One person approached them. The group warily asked who he was. That guy said he wanted to give everyone a gift. He added that seeing how cute you guys are looking for entertainment, he just came to give it to you. All the people out there were villains and wanted to refuse to accept the gift. He gently said that he refused this refusal because he was not happy at all. Then Toy Maquette took a gift box and covered one of them's head with it, turning it into a cute thing. At this time, inside the bookstore, Wu Chan came to meet his sister. While everyone was talking, suddenly something from outside the door was thrown inside, causing everyone to panic. Driver was watching TV in his spare time when he heard the attack at a shopping district in Gadam district. There appeared human-like monsters with gift boxes on their heads and aggressively attacked people around. Crow sitting next to him laughed and said that he watched the news at the right time. It was none other than that bastard. 3 years ago that crazy bastard ran away after being defeated by Driver. After Wu Chan calmed down, it became clear that the person who attacked them was a villain. Both Wu Chan and his friend Seo Ji-ho ran after him. A puppet flew from behind to Na-eun's position. Fortunately Kong Wu stood nearby to stop it. Seo Ji-ho, standing in the distance, saw that he told everyone to be careful. He was about to throw something. Wu Chan asks his friend to go with him to support him. The two will go to destroy it. The villains need to be destroyed. Kong Wu felt bad and yelled at them to stop. You two want to kill people. That person has been turned into a puppet and is being controlled. The villain has taken that person hostage. Seo Ji-no wondered how Kong Wu knew that. Kong Wu relied on what people in the organization had said if he considered himself a missionary. Think and act maturely, which means acting calmly, not emotionally. Kong Wu looked at the two of them and said the most basic rule for all clerics is to ensure the safety of the people. Think and act carefully. Now it was Wu Chan's turn to be surprised. How could he know the basic rule of the cleric? Seo Ji-ho told Wu Chan to quickly step aside. If it was really a human being controlled by the evil, then using recovery would be fine. Toy Maquette senses that someone has damaged one of his toys. He was about to go there when Driver showed up. Driver told him not to leave here. He had warned before that if there was a riot in Gadam district, he would not forgive. Toymaker wants to take Driver's eyes with his own hands. He silently cursed that the hateful puppets were trying to irritate him. Driver said meeting them again made him uncomfortable. He was also really angry. At the same villain of Boksan district also saw today's news. Barracuda said that wasn't enough. It should have started more interestingly. Just like that, Gadam's bastards could feel all the joy. The whole group laughed at the same time. Rockhand asked if they couldn't come and destroy everything. Ice Demon feels fine, just let her freeze everything. Barracuda doesn't care what they want to do but don't touch his driver. Smoker asks her if she should choose Raven. She's been craving chicken lately but doesn't know what smoked crow will be like. Black Ghost asks her if she can choose the one she wants. She is interested in someone named Cassian. Smoker found it odd that someone finally caught the Black Ghost's attention. People wanted to know what Barracuda was up to with Toymaker. He said sooner or later he would get rid of that guy. That guy's mission was to start the festival and he did exactly what he needed. Barracuda declares that this time Gadam will definitely belong to him. Seo Ji-ho in a row saved 3 people. The two thought it was necessary to find the villain before there were more victims. Kong Wu also received a call from Driver. The culprit behind this is Toymaker. Moro says contacting you directly like that, he's serious. He said maybe that guy was just hanging around. First he needed to get out of here. But when Kong Wu left, Na-eun asked him to stay with them. Leaving now would be very dangerous. Without waiting for Kong Wu to react, Toymaquette came by himself. He wanted to find out who destroyed his toys. Wu Chan fell into danger because he was caught off guard. Fortunately Na-eun threw the phone at the villain's face in time. Moros asked Kong Wu if he saw anything. He felt that this girl was also quite good. It seemed to him that it wouldn't be long before this girl woke up, he thought. Toy Maker said it was reckless of them to destroy his toys, then laughed and said he had more fun games. At the branch of the Korean Lampus Association, Lee Dae-wung came late because of going to the bathroom. Ham Ju-sun stood outside the car waiting for him to come out, his face full of worry. Lee Dae-wung appeared. 2 people quickly got in the car and left for the attack in the center of Gadam district. If this continues, the damage will increase significantly because this is a county with a specific non-sedentary mobile population. At this time, Lee Dae-wong watched the news and learned that the person Wu Chan was confronting was Toy Maker. Ham Ji-sun told him that his teammates had backed up and were at the scene, surprised and worried. Seeing that expression, Ham Ji-sun said she didn't know if it was luck or not, but it seems that Seo Ji-ho, an apprentice missionary, was there. Ji-sun also told the two of them to find a safe place and hide until he arrived. It would be troublesome if they acted thoughtlessly like the time they faced bloodrain. Anyway, this incident is extremely suspicious. A person who disappeared for 3 years suddenly reappeared. Not only in Seoul, but the evil areas in Korea are experiencing unusual changes. It's like someone is trying to inflame conflicts as if the evil regions are against each other. Ji-sun said if there was a bastard who wanted to take over all the evil zones, he would be the beneficiary. Lee Dae-wong was even more worried when his phone could not connect to Wu Chan. The two men accelerated the car to get to the scene. The next day on the news there was a terrorist incident in the shopping area of Gadam district yesterday afternoon. Responding to reporter Ji-sun said that the person who caused this was Toy Maker. The act of that villain has caused many injuries and property damage. The Wicked Zone is a place established so that the villains are controlled and do not cause harm to society. Statistically, cities that have a crime zone system in place have lower crime rates than cities that don't. Ji-sun affirmed that the recent crimes in Gadam district were caused by the negligence of the Wicked area. She also thinks that there is a reconstruction and special measures taken in the evil zone of Gadam district. If the recent incident had not been for the intervention of the clergy, many casualties would have occurred. When asked about Wu Chan, she said that he is a very talented apprentice missionary, so she received a petition to shorten the probationary period. Lee Dae-wong previously put his arm around his shoulder saying he was proud to have a partner like him. He also told Wu Chan that after this incident he would no longer be a missionary. But now in Wu Chan's heart is extremely uncomfortable, no one knows what happened behind. That time was the same and this time the villain who helped that person appeared again. Why did the evil go to save people? In his mind, there was also the question of what the villain's purpose was and above all his name was Cassian. Kwon Yuri's sister did not forget to call to ask if Kong Woo was eating well. He asks his sister not to worry, he cooks for himself and eats often. But in fact, when answering this question, Kong Woo's hand was holding an instant bread. After talking with his sister, he saw Wu Chan walking in this direction. He had a paper bag in his hand and said he had something to ask him. The other party, after hanging up the phone with his younger brother Kwon Yuri, was also called by someone else. Today she will meet the manager Vincent where she is working. Wu Chan came to thank Kong Woo for yesterday. Without his help they would be in trouble. In that critical situation he calmly assessed the situation and acted without hesitation. Wu Chan said that as a missionary he also needs to learn a lot from him. Finally he handed the paper bag to Kong Woo saying it was his sister's thanks. Wu Chan suddenly said that maybe yesterday he also saw the man in black. After that, Wu Chan paused for a moment before continuing to tell him not to worry about it. He left and then Kong Woo opened it to see inside was the cookbook he needed to buy the day before. In the Gadam Vilzone district, driver is commanding people to set up a fence around their place. He said make sure it's strong enough and in front of the fence dig a trap. Raven asks him if the guys from Boksan are really coming. Driver is sure that they will come so they put them all here, they want to start a war with them. Seeing Kong Woo going from afar to driver asked if he did well on the test. He curiously asked what everyone was doing in this place, was it because of the Boksans? Driver laughed and said although they only have 13 people, if they prepare well, they can definitely win. Kong Woo did not continue to work with them, but directly went to meet Yu Chai Ha at the pub. There Kong Woo wants to buy all the magic stones he has. Yu Chai Ha only has 5 magic stones left. Recently, someone came and bought in bulk to give to someone. Kong Woo agreed to take everything and pay immediately, making him extremely surprised to think who Kong Woo is. Kong Woo is the only person who knows there is a secret bank account under the name of Cassian in a Swiss bank. Jeff had told him to do it before, just in case something happened. Na-eun at a cafe was noticed by the evil black ghost. While she was going to the bathroom, the villain was always following behind, but because she was concentrating on her thoughts, she didn't notice. Na-eun thought she was sure Min Young and her brother didn't see that. What if she exposed the evil Cassian as Kong Woo as she thought? Hearing the sound of turning around, Na-eun saw Kong Woo standing behind. She asked why he was standing here but did not expect it to be the evil black ghost in disguise. Kim Young is horrified to see a villain who wants to take her friend away. Black Ghost told her to go and relayed the word to Na-eun's brother. If he wanted to find his sister, he went to Villezone, Gadam district. When Black Hand's people went outside, they saw a fence being erected and were curious to see what it was. Another told him it was preparation when the Boksan raiders arrived. Doesn't he say it's better for this thing to rush in and raid them? Seeing him come closer to see, the other person reminded him not to come near, there are traps. Dirt Dog bragged about his hard work. At this time, the group saw Wu Chan running here at a very fast speed. Seeing the spiker come to Black Hand, he excitedly asked to leave this part to him. Without thinking much, he rushed to attack and unexpectedly caught himself in a trap. Inside Villezone, Gadam district, Kashian's private training room. Moros asked him how he felt after drinking all 5 magic stones. Kong Wu said that it was not the same as every time, nor was it a comfortable feeling. Using his eyes to assess his current mana point reached 860, this number hasn't even reached A or B rank. But in return, thanks to the increase in mana points, his skills have also been upgraded. Moros said it would be a different story if he had a genuine magic stone in his hand. Outside, Driver's voice was heard saying that someone named Wu Chan had come looking for him. Villezone Boksan district, the evil black ghost brought Na-eun to the place where she wanted to lock her in a prison. Smoker asked Barracuda if he was going to corner the Gadam district villains too. He laughed and said that it was fun to watch, it would soon be hot news. That the evil Cassian was a shameless person who kidnapped a spiker's relative. This is really good food for the news hunters, and will be shown by a pack of wolves. Their plan wants people to turn their backs on the evil people of Gadam district and to isolate them. Wait until that moment comes, then they will attack Gadam. On the other side, Kong Wu asked everyone to summarize everything that he kidnapped his sister. You insist that person is not you. How can you make such a joke? Driver finds it interesting that kidnapping is not enough, but also has to blame the bridgehead. The Boksan district bastards did this dirty trick to kick them down the hole. Wu Chan didn't understand what the people around were saying and shouted to give his sister back to him. Driver says they will attack Boksan, but I think everyone should clear the misunderstanding first. Kong Wu suddenly shouted at the back to let him go. Didn't he want to clear the misunderstanding? Just in case they were anything stupid, Driver sent a drone to Boksan. Now that everyone can clearly see the kidnapper of Na-eun, he guessed that this guy is Black Ghost because he has a transformation skill. Kong Wu heard that people were still debating whether that guy would reincarnate like him. You can say whatever you want, if you find the killer, then they'll hit their necks for a beat. Driver stood aside and asked him if he was going to leave now. It was an execution. Hearing that, everyone inside wanted to go, including Wu Chan. They are like Wu Chan, who hides his identity with a mask and nicknames him Red Mask. The mask was given to him by Kong Wu, because a spiker with a villain would feel strange when looking at it. He said that if you don't want any bad rumors to spread, listen to him. Everyone's target this time is the leader of Boksan district. They will rescue the hostages after defeating the leader by dividing the group into action. Kong Wu asks Driver to check the shortest route to the target. The only way to play this match is to fight fast and win quickly. He will divide the roles and positions of each person. Driver will be the one looking in the front and he will let the crows block his back and then penetrate and destroy the enemy. Raven says she doesn't like violence at all, but this time she has to accept it. Kong Wu continues to command Red Mask will be the one in charge behind. As he was about to assign the snipers, the Black Hands called him to stop. They asked him where he'd tricked them. They weren't here to show off. A guy standing next to him said that it's fine to just rush in and destroy everything. Kong Wu said they have separate roles but no less. While everyone was on duty and on their way back, they had to make sure to find an escape route. Black Hand and his companions angrily asked him to tell them to sit still and do nothing. Kong Wu said that ensuring the escape of the hostages is of the utmost importance. Driver laughed and said all the surveillance cameras in front were under his control. Let's move. Wu Chan thought that his sister must be safe until he came to save her. Wait until everyone has gone inside to do the task. But Black Hand's group is still standing on the main road arguing loudly, deliberately attracting the attention of others. Ju Ak went to ask what they were doing here, came here to surrender. Rockhand appeared and said he had never seen these 3 people before. He was curious not to tell the idiots of Gadam district to eat lobster liver and then come here to be spies. Ju Ak doesn't believe this, those three aren't capable of doing something as difficult as that of a spy. She was sure the three of them were coming to surrender. Black Hand shouts that they are here to occupy Boksan. The person standing in the back kept swearing in their hearts, they were told to sit still, keep order and not get caught. Rock Hand asked again that the three of you coming to fight Boksan were too funny, but he acknowledged that bravery. He was about to go up to beat people and tell them to hurry and prove to him that courage is beyond iron. The current Barracuda is remembering the past when he was close to Driver and plans to merge all of Seoul. He asked his cousin how much longer he had to live like this and watch out for Spiker. If combined into a unified whole, their power will be unmatched, then nationally and internationally. Driver interrupted and told him to go and do it himself, since it is an art, it must be done by himself. He hoped that rough children wouldn't be dragged along just to satisfy an individual's need. Lens Girl came in and interrupted Barracuda's thoughts to announce that he had found some people on Gatum's side. He calmly said that if those people were B rank, then Rockhand would be more than enough to handle it on his own. In addition, he proudly checked another place that was definitely a decoy. If the boss of the Vilzones drags to 3 including Driver, he is confident that he will not lose. On the other side of Kong Wu's group, he encountered Smoker, he said it was more troublesome. Since it's like this, it's time to speed up the ambush attack. In the end, everyone decided to let Raven deal with Smoker again. The more the three went inside, the more people discovered and pursued. They shouted at each other that someone had broken in, and when they saw it, they immediately killed it. Kong Wu stopped to clear the crowd that was chasing after him. The leader, who was not afraid to die, laughed and said that he also knew how to fight properly. However, those punches weren't enough to scratch his itch, his body was awesome. He opened his fish mouth full of sharp teeth and said that with just one bite, he would go to hell. Kong Wu didn't say a lot of words. A kick blew away those teeth, and then conveniently swept away the pursuers. Driver stood outside and watched until he finished all of it and went to praise him for a job well done. Wu Chan thought it was too strong. Every time he met him, he became stronger than before. Kong Wu returned to inform the two of them that from now on they would split into action. Driver and he will attack the leader Boksan, and Wu Chan will go to save his sister according to the original purpose. Before leaving, Driver asked him to bring an electronic map. His sister was locked in the basement of a nearby building. The drone already knows her location, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Seeing Wu Chan hurry to leave, Driver secretly thought that this brother really loves his sister to the fullest. The others chased the two of them again. Driver told Kong Wu to go ahead without him. This group also had to have someone stay to handle it. If the two of you continued to linger here, the number of enemies would continue to increase, not decrease, let alone wait for Raven to finish. When Kong Wu said that, he trusted him with his back. Waiting for Drive to signal that he would catch up with him, Kong Wu left. Driver, carrying his weapon on his shoulder, walked leisurely toward the crowd. The mouth said that now they should sit down to eat cake, drink tea and talk about life. Vilzone Boksan District's second-floor basement. Wu Chan thinks the two of them just showed that they really care about him. Now it turned out that he was indebted to the two of you. The ice demon appeared saying she had never seen him before, an accomplice of the driver's. Knowing it wouldn't be in vain for her to wait here. Knowing immediately that at least one of them would be here to rescue the hostages. Wu Chan angrily told her to shut up and go away. Discovering his ability as fire she found extremely interesting, a skill well suited for hot-tempered people. Fire and ice is an extremely interesting battle. Vilzone in Boksan District 12th floor. Kong Wu said into the shadow, I told the person to stop hiding and stick his head out. Black Ghost appeared and praised his sharp senses. He really wanted to meet Kong Wu. You are a person with the same dark attribute as him. Kong Wu didn't listen to him and asked if he was Na-eun's kidnapper. He also did not intend to answer this question, but continued to say that he had found out through you. He had a grand debut with remarkable achievements. There is an implicit law that prohibits villains from fighting outside the Vilzone area. Yet Kong Wu is the one who ignores that fact and fights other villains. Black Ghost said that even if he killed him right here, no one would be responsible for this. Seeing that Kong Wu didn't answer, he was still staring at him. He said that he seemed to have misunderstood something. Maybe it was because his tone just sounded too ironic, but he respected Kong Wu. If you are a real villain, you should listen to the madness of your heart. An outlaw is the real goal of evil. Someone who has to live in the dark. Someone like him who can't even try for something like that. Moros heard this whispering to Kong Wu as if the guy was praising him. He realized that he had said too much and asked Kong Wu to start. Villezone Boksan District, Barracuda's bunker on the second floor. Na-eun heard the sound above. Outside, Wu Chan is still fighting with Ice Demon. She secretly thought that Wu Chan didn't have an opening. His ability to link skills was too fluid, probably because he was familiar with this type of fighting. Ice Demon spoke contrary to his impulsiveness when he was now calmer and more self-controlled. If he just rushed forward and attacked her, it would be too easy to kill him. Thanks to that, she felt that freezing him brought its own thrills. Ice Demon asked, "Isn't the moment he's most excited about burning something?" She's the same way, freezing others is what gets her excited. But she won't play a quick shot but slowly freezes from one of her front limbs so that she can see her opponents trembling in fear. Wu Chan, while angry, forced his mouth to curse, "They are really disgusting villains." When he said that, he remembered that he was currently pretending to be a villain. She begins to suspect that he is the brother of the captured girl, who is also a spiker. Wu Chan loudly said he can't compare to a poor spiker, now he is the evil Red Mask. While being overwhelmed by the Ice Demon, Wu Chan recalled the words Kong Wu had taught him. The delay between his attacks is too long, often distracting from the fight. Kong Wu doesn't know how to emphasize enough, his judgment and actions must be quick. Speed was the core of his technique, he couldn't let the enemy have time to defend, and attack was always the best defense. Regardless of spiker or villain, they all exist to become stronger by overcoming their own limits. Gate to the evil district of Gadam District. Everything here is too quiet. Everyone thought that they would burst in all at once, but now there are only a few people left to guard the door. Red Eye, sitting on the roof of the house, quietly said that it's fine as it is now. Royal inwardly felt disgusted and told him not to speak like a cleric. Yu Chai Ha came back from outside to thank everyone sitting above for their hard work. Royal was surprised to see that he brought back a lot of pizzas, she thought all the shops were destroyed. Yu Chai Ha said he bought it outside the evil zone and then divided the cake among everyone. While eating with everyone, he asked the people who had infiltrated Boksan if they were okay. She replied that driver would not accept transactions that could cost him his life, but this time it was the new boss Kong Wu, not him. She still holds her opinion that it doesn't matter who leads, the important thing is driver's way. Just like Royal said, driver was currently sitting on a pile of corpses thinking it was too time-consuming. When Raven arrived, he heard the sound of fighting both upstairs and in the basement. Driver jokingly said below is their dark horse Red Mask, above their boss also started to act. At Barracuda's residence on the 12th floor of the Boksan District's evil area, he did not hesitate to take action against his subordinate Black Ghost. When he first met Barracuda, Moros whispered to Kong Wu that he had a weapon made of natural magic stone. He looked at Kong Wu with disgust and asked why driver didn't come. He said he would come soon too, but he alone was enough to deal with him. Barracuda wanted Kong Wu to quickly move away, the person he wanted to meet was driver. But Kong Wu also had something to tell him because he kidnapped other people and blamed him. Kong Wu calmly told him that he had to pay the price. Even though he was reminded by driver before, he still found Barracuda's moves too annoying in combat. Moros tells him that this move detects moving objects. Barracuda said Kong Wu had something he wanted to tell him, but now he only showed him his evasion skills. If you are the boss of evil, in his eyes, driver is just a low rank right now. He said that the distance between the two of them was too great, so this match he couldn't lose, even if he was as strong as a dragon. The current one was like an egg against a stone. Kong Wu waited for him to finish before letting him know his attack was too obvious. Barracuda only moves with the opponent, meaning he only specializes in fighting the weaker. This proves that he is the one with too little experience. Driver was right, he was too dependent on weapons. Moro said if he was going to provoke him, he would have succeeded. Barracuda shouted loudly, leaning on his weapon, who would accept his words if he was torn to pieces. Seeing him rushing, this time Kong Wu also used all his strength to attack. Barracuda suddenly asked him if he had two attributes, which he had never heard of. Kong Wu laughed and said because you didn't show it, don't be arrogant, but the two are very different. Barracuda thought that if he continued like this he would get injured, so he attacked again. Kong Wu guessed it easily, he asked why he still didn't understand. His current attack was too obvious, then Kong Wu gave him a punch in the face. He asked him how it feels to face someone stronger. Seeing that Barracuda was coming closer, he calmly told him to finish it quickly, don't drag it any longer. Barracuda now seemed to have lost his mind and asked why he dared to do this to him, a boss of the Boksan district. Kong Wu just softly said that the outcome of this match was intended from the beginning. Kong Wu didn't kill him right away, but hit his hands first. He said he should just be satisfied with Boxon, losing 2 arms like that is still cheap. He painfully asked him if it was cheap to lose his arms like now, stop talking nonsense. He suddenly saw Kong Wu shouting that he will take back what he took from him because he is Barracuda. Kong Wu asked him what he just said, because promises are usually reserved for those who are still alive. He approached him and asked if he said he would let him live, today he will definitely be killed by you. Suddenly, a girl with glasses appeared from behind and attacked Kong Wu. While he was not paying attention, he carried someone away. Moros informed him that they used a portal to escape. Kong Wu didn't expect her to sneak up on her without being detected. She was not ordinary at all, but first he had to get what the other Barracuda left behind. Driver and Raven reached the place where there was still a lot of dust around. Kong Wu told them he let Barracuda run away, he escaped. Driver seemed surprised and asked him again to confirm. Kong Wu asked if Red Mask was in the situation right now and if he needed him to go there. He tells him not to worry, the 2 cousins are safe, through the drone that is returning. Kong Wu tells the 3 of them to go too, they will meet the people guarding their way out. On the current driver's screen was a picture of the 3 of them being beaten badly. Although it was planned, but it seems that there was a problem over there, everyone rushed over there. Driver didn't come with him and told the 2 of you to go ahead, there was one thing he needed to take care of first. Boxon District villain, Barracuda's hideout. He painfully shouted that he wanted to conquer the evil zone and conquer the world. The glasses girl said his arms could be restored. While opening the portal to find the arm, Driver burst in. When Kong Wu and Raven got there, the Black Hands were beaten to the ground. Didn't you tell them before to hide and avoid detection? Ju Ak at this time was not inferior to Black Hand, who was full of injuries. When she saw Kong Wu, she cried out in anger. He looked around once and then said that all traitors are here, he won't forgive traitors. Hearing that, the person behind Ju Ak immediately picked her up and ran away. Black Hand asked him what he was doing to let go of his prey. Kong Wu looked at him everywhere that he was often ridiculed, saying that he seemed to be the prey. The people behind asked Barracuda how he was, and the 2 turned around faster than they thought. Kong Wu calmly told everyone that the guy ran away. Black Hand thought to himself that Kong Wu really defeated Barracuda. After a while, someone asked where Driver was, why didn't he come back with him? Raven knows him better than anyone, she says he's busy right now. Driver approached Barracuda and asked if the recent events that had thrown Gadam into chaos, he wanted to blame him. There's also the rumor of kidnapping other people, how he intends to be responsible. Seeing Barracuda falter, Driver seemed to realize something. It's true that this guy doesn't have the guts to do such things, someone must be behind. An old man who appeared by teleporting, he said you made him feel very sad. Driver picked up his weapon and asked him if he wanted to start a war. The old man asked him not to misunderstand, he did not mean to fight, just came to talk and bring Barracuda back. Driver was certain that he was the one who ordered Barracuda to occupy Seoul. He mysteriously declares that Seoul is just the beginning, he wants to be the hegemony of the world. After returning to Gadam, Kong Wu quickly used the natural magic stone he obtained. I think that once you have this, you will get stronger soon. The next morning the newspapers all reported that the 2 evil regions Boxon and Gadam were fighting for power. Wu Chan was reading the contents of the newspaper when Lee Dae-wung was watching him. He asked if he stayed up late again, looking extremely tired. He then asked how his sister was doing now. The 2 people talked for a while, and then turned to the case related to the fight of the 2 evil regions. Although it did not appear in the press, it was rumored that the people in Gadam had completely annihilated them in Boxon. Lee Dae-wung said he didn't expect Cassian to be so brave, he didn't expect to attack Boxon first. Wu Chan whispered that the people in Boxon were the ones who kidnapped Na-eun. Lee Dae-wung did not believe what he heard, apparently he checked the information at that time. Seeing him surprised, Wu Chan said that the bastards in Boxon made up the story. Lee Dae-wung asked, how do you know this, don't tell me you're going to Boxon. He admits he received help from the people in Gadam because it was the only way to save Na-eun. In the evil area of Boxon district, everyone becomes angry when the power and appliances are lost. Red Eye showed up saying it was Driver's fault. Heard he broke the limit yesterday and the power outage was caused by an aftershock. Red Eye added that Driver is always smiling, so don't misunderstand. Once angry, it's extremely scary. Kong Wu finds a place to talk privately with Moros. He thought it was time for him to talk about the more detailed things about Jeff's death now. His death is related to the Sword of Destruction, and the Platinum Disc is the key to finding that sword. It is in the hands of the most powerful villains, the 4 evil emperors. The Sword of Destruction, the key to world domination, is related to the Money King, the same old man Driver met earlier. Barracuda is known as a tyrant. He is the ambitious boss of the evil Boxon region who wants to rule all of Seoul. However, after being beaten to death in the previous battle, he hid from Boxon. Boxon Evil Zone. After Barracuda disappeared, Ju Ak became the new boss. Kong Wu secretly thought that the villain could absorb mana jelly and increase mana, even conquering skills. But even if you can conquer exclusive skills, the villain's melee ability is still considered weak because it is difficult to assimilate skills through systematic training. Among the villains are those who are so stubborn that they are obsessed with increasing their strength. Among those villains who are also known as monsters, they are called the 4 Great Evil Kings. Kong Wu confusedly asked Moros why the 4 Great Evil Kings got the platinum plate. Moros faltered, he knew it had something to hide from him. After using the natural magic stone, many of Kong Wu's skills increased, but that alone was not enough to confront the 4 Great Evil Kings. Kong Wu thought to himself that if he wanted to fight them, by all means he had to achieve magic points equal to the ability of an S-class villain. Driver called Kong Wu outside to find someone. Black Ghost. He wants to join him and promises to be faithful. The second thing Driver wanted to tell him was that they were about to have their electricity and water cut off in their daily activities. He didn't hide anything from him, but frankly said that the reason might be because he rejected the old Hu King. Diver also tells him to prepare himself in advance when everyone will be threatened with danger. Perhaps another reason is that there is a special item in this Gadam. It is an anecdote that is told about the immortal evil who is more powerful than anyone and nothing can kill him. The villain's name was the Immortal. The black iron armor he was using was sealed in this place. Evil area, Gangnam District. The Hu King's people came to find the boss of the evil in this area. Mu Jin saw the other person constantly saying clichés. He began impatiently asking them to tell them the reason for coming here. The Neo Sentry director at the request of the president came here to make an offer. Lens Girl, the girl with glasses, says their president is still upset about the fact that the human rights of villains are being affected. The director added that they want to aim for a place where the human rights of criminals are protected. Mu Jin cut him off. You feel that he talks too much, just go straight to the point. Starting with the 4 notorious evil regions in Seoul, their president wants to unify the evil regions to create an all-round power. Mu Jin laughed, thinking that any suggestion turned out to be just him wanting to take control and arbitrarily manipulate everything. After the two leave, Mu Jin tells the person next to him that merging the whole evil zone into one is not an easy thing. J. Lope, who was next to him, felt the same way. The money-loving old man must be confused. That man's intention to unite wasn't bad, but he couldn't believe it like this. He said there must be some other purpose that they don't know about. Mu Jin suddenly asked if it was Driver's neighbor. It would be no exception. J. Lope says if it's Driver, then definitely refuses. If it was him, even knowing the other purpose of the Money King, Mu Jin made the decision to contact Gadam. In the evil area of Gadam District, Driver took Kong Wu to the 5th basement where the black iron armor was stored. Moro said he thought there was an evil aura attached to the armor, which he needed to see to confirm. But Kong Wu is willing to take any risk to become stronger. He will dominate it and make it his. That armor let out a voice. In order to restrain the chaotic wartime, he gave up his heart and soul. In that corrupt world, he dreamed of a dawn of human civilization that would come after he successfully destroyed them all. With a body more ferocious than anyone, he will rule the world. At this moment, Moros was trying to wake Kong Wu up. When he woke up, he didn't know what had happened. Moros said he was almost taken over by the armor. Kong Wu thought about it. It must have been at that time, when he felt his consciousness slowly fade away. Kong Wu asked Moros where its energy source was, and he couldn't see it anymore. The stream when the evil of the armor had dissipated was a long, painful resentment, but any fire that was lower would eventually go out. Kong Wu laughed twice. Anyway, he was too careless. He didn't know that he was weak when faced with such psychological attack. Kong Wu stood up and walked to the side of the armor and started extracting magic crystals. Driver sat outside and waited for too long without seeing Kong Wu come out. He should have come in with him. Just stopped thinking. Kong Wu appeared. He ran to see how he was. Kong Wu said the armor inside can be used as an antique to sell or give it to Money King. Do whatever you want. Driver confusedly watched Kong Wu's back leave, selling legendary weapons like antiques. He was curious as to what the hell was going on inside. His magic points had skyrocketed by a ton now. Royal went to find Driver and informed that the people in Gangnam district were looking for him. She was curious, so she did some research and it seems that someone working for Money King came to see them. Everyone is looking forward to Kong Wu's interesting meeting with Mu Jin, two people who like to do whatever they want. After extracting magic crystals from the armor, Kong Wu's information also changed. Perhaps it was thanks to the mana stone crystallized inside the armor that helped him increase his mana points and also new skills. Of the two new skills, there is the Black Shadow armor he can use for 20 hours. The other is Willpower, a skill that increases resistance to the opponent's psychological attacks. Moros also didn't think that Kong Wu would use the magic crystal extraction skill on the armor like that. The results were too positive. He said that even though he wasn't strong enough to fight them yet, with this, he wouldn't be called weak no matter where he went. Kong Wu wished he could meet an equal opponent. Wu Chan has never forgotten what Kong Wu taught him, not to let himself be bound by common sense. Fast and strong is the way to be sure to win. The key to getting the most out of the skill is speed. Wu Chan still felt like this wasn't enough. He was determined to catch up with Kong Wu. In Li Daewong's hand right now is the most recent investigation report of the most recent move in the evil areas. Ji Sun asks him if he remembers what she said about evil people around the world moving around restlessly. Of course he remembered, but this time he didn't know some brat was playing tricks. He also did not think that they would cut off electricity, water and daily living support. It may sound like a small matter, but surely the government and even businesses are involved. Ji Sun tells him that all the notorious evil rulers of the country have submitted to the Money King's feet. Perhaps now he wants to make all the evil areas in Seoul his own. Both of them knew for sure that neither would give in so easily. The owner of the Gangnam region, the great black sword Mu Jin, came to Gadam. Unexpectedly, the first people he met were three idiots. Seeing the three of them just standing there looking without any intention of going in and calling Driver, he spoke up to remind him. The hot-tempered J. Lope yelled, "Hurry up and call your boss over here." Black Hand shouted back at them, they weren't his subordinates, why should they obey? If you really want to meet, go and find it yourself. J. Lope remembered that he seemed to have heard of the three of them. That in Gadam there is a trio of idiots who know nothing. Maybe that trio is standing here. Black Hand couldn't stand these words and rushed to hit J. Lope but was taught a lesson instead. J. Lope proudly said that when someone was caught by him, their bones would break in one hit. Seeing Driver's group, he put on a regretful expression. Things were just getting interesting. Mu Jin tells Driver that they started the war when they didn't know their position. Raven also brought out a weapon and asked him if he wanted to talk with his fists. Driver stops her actions. First listen to what they want. He should have informed everyone sooner, but the truth is that they had an appointment with them. He didn't think they would be in such a hurry. Kong Wu said that since they're already here, you should also receive them properly. Mu Jin shows contempt for Kong Wu when using his evil stage name Cassian. He wanted to get straight to the point. He didn't accept a brat like you as the master of the evil zone. He said that just by looking at him, he knew Driver, a person who loved to draw and play, made him the representative of the owner's position. He hates the most unworthy people who can freely act on their own. As soon as he finished his sentence, both he and everyone present felt a bloodthirsty aura. Kong Wu said he can do whatever he wants, but he has one condition: fight him once. Watching Kong Wu knock J. Lope to the ground, Raven found it more and more interesting. Mu Jin said he really didn't expect this rude reception, but his subordinate J. Lope being provoked by Kong Wu was so pathetic. He went up and said he wouldn't refuse any challenge either. Mu Jin is thinking that Kong Wu can only defeat a useless guy like Barracuda and challenge him. The price is not small. Moros reminds that guy is very different from the ones you've seen. If he was just playing for fun to test his strength, he might get injured. When the two got into a fight, Driver realized that Kong Wu was very serious. He thought to himself that finding his loophole wasn't that easy, so he had to attack straight away. Mu Jin did not expect his sword to be deflected, thinking that his strength was quite good. Kong Wu saw that the moment he attacked, he was deflected. But Mu Jin's fighting style is very standard, not like a villain at all. Moro said it told him he was not an easy opponent to test his skills, he was still hiding his true strength. Kong Wu answered it, then you have to provoke him for a while to admire. Everyone there could see that the strengths of the two sides were equal. Driver went up and clapped his hands saying that the two of you were great. Both of them must have confirmed each other's strengths, then stop. Mu Jin was the one who answered immediately, he refused. A double match like this can't be stopped, let's keep fighting until someone falls. Kong Wu asked him again until someone fell, he didn't seem sure. He told him that if he was a villain, he should act like a villain, put all his strength into fighting like a madman. Mu Jin asked him if he was afraid that he thought he was lowly, so he said such rude things. Moros informed him that it seemed he had successfully hit him. The power that Mu Jin possesses is the wild energy of destruction, he can cut anything. Mu Jin not only possesses the wild energy power of destruction. When the attribute is a mineral, one's skills can strengthen any part of the body. His attribute was not only suitable for attack but also specialized in defense, so direct combat was extremely disadvantageous. On the other hand, the shadow attribute specializes in stealth rather than face-to-face combat. In this match, Mu Jin felt that his blades were too troublesome. It seemed that the skill belonged to the dark nature. Kong Wu charged again, this time he replaced it with the Black Knight sword. He asked you, how dare you use that thing against him, are you playing him? Suddenly, Kong Wu disappeared right in front of him. Fortunately J-Lope woke up and saw the situation and reminded him behind. Mu Jin secretly swore if J-Lope hadn't reminded him, perhaps the person who got hit would have been him. Kong Wu on the other side, despite being countered, praised him for doing well. Mu Jin felt like he was teaching him right now. Mu Jin said he took back his words that he was a lowly man, with his excellent fighting skills and guts. He admits that he is the boss of Vilzone. And to apologize for looking down on you, he will give you a follow-up attack. He kindly reminded him that if he didn't want to die, blood should be avoided. Moros praised his magical prowess so much, it looked like he was about to use his trump card. Mu Jin did not expect that when he hit Kong Wu did not dodge but stood there. He silently scolded him for being an idiot when Kong Wu came out from inside the dust. Kong Wu prepares to charge up, if he starts up, then starts again, because he just blocked his attack, now it will be his turn. Driver suddenly from outside rushed in to stop the two. Wasn't it enough for him to ask them to stop hanging out like that? If you're already having fun, you should know your limits. Moros agreed with Driver, thinking he was being drawn into the battle instead of testing his skills. Kong Wu also stopped because his goal was also achieved. Driver turned to ask what about Mu Jin, he didn't answer but turned to leave with his subordinates. He asked them what they didn't say but just brushed their ass off, what about the meeting? At the Vilzone control room in Gadam district, Royal asked if they really left just because of a fight. She thought to herself that Mu Jin would only go when he knew when to act, and when not, there might be a problem. Kong Wu asked Driver who these people sitting in front of them were. The driver introduced the person he was talking to as Royal Garnet, and the two little girls sitting next to them were Aroma and Oat. They are not Gadam's villains but outsiders, although they often come here, Kong Wu does not meet. Royal said she was from Winterbell, telling him was her goal. Kong Wu said he had heard that name before. Among the villains, there are those who are heirs to the family lineage. These families think they have noble blood and are very proud of it. They created a transnational organization and its name was Winterbell. This organization possesses outstanding strength and is fully equipped. They are influential both politically and economically in every country. When he returned, Mu Jin gave the voice changer to J-Lope to repair because it was damaged by Kong Wu. He didn't know whether to be happy or sad that he could hear her true voice because of him. After taking off the makeup and mask, Mu Jin has returned to a beautiful girl. Kong Wu asked Driver if he was also from Winterbell. Driver does not have any special relationship at all. If it has to be stated, it is a commercial relationship with them. Kong Wu thought and said and Mu Jin must be related to Winterbell as well. When it comes to Mu Jin, first of all, you have to clarify the background behind the scenes. Driver has also talked about it before. Money, one of the 4 evil kings who want to rule all of Vilzone. He didn't intend to let the old man do whatever he wanted, but the old man was quite strong and his influence was immense. Although the opponent is not the Money King, to fight against one of the 4 evil kings, he needs Winterbell to support him. At the hospital where Na-eun is being treated, Wu Chan asked her if she didn't need to stay a few more days. The doctor also said she needed time to recover. Na-eun didn't want to stay in the hospital anymore, she wasn't seriously injured either. Wu Chan still does not know that his sister knows the true identity of the evil Cassian as Kong Wu. He was still debating whether to tell his sister that the person who kidnapped her that day was not the evil Cassian. When he mentions the day she was kidnapped, Na-eun shows that she doesn't remember anything. She was drinking coffee with friends when she woke up and was already at the hospital. Na-eun quickly pushed her brother forward, saying that she wanted to eat delicious food. In his heart, he wondered if Kong-woo was okay now. Kong-woo is currently going out with Moros to practice like every morning. Moros reminds him that there are people around him who are practicing hard. Kong-woo didn't think that saying that being healthy is the beginning of happiness. Moros innocently asked him, "Are you currently training to find happiness?" Kong-woo secretly thought about happiness, which was the word he thought of the most during the time when Jeff was taking care of him with his friends. And now, if revenge succeeds, then he will feel happy. The Winterbell had a private meeting together. Except for a few places in the country, most of the Vilzone bosses have gone to Money King's coffee. Take off the mask that always wears on Royal's body and return to the identity of Choi Yosip. He said that if they continued, they might get robbed of everything. Yoo Sung-jun asked him not to say such ridiculous things. They don't come here to eat idle today. Another said that it's not too late to take measures now. She couldn't think of any other way but to execute the absolute order on behalf of Winterbell. Long ago, Winterbell secretly formed a peace treaty with the leaders of all nations. The result of that treaty was the birth of Vilzone. Currently, if using absolute orders, it is possible to recover those concessions. Vilzone bosses. Vilzone bosses are the only ones who can talk to the King of Winterbell. When the Vilzone boss goes against the rules and causes trouble, the King of Winterbell will execute the absolute order. Mu Jin has the true identity of Seo Gina speaking up just because she doesn't have the power of the Emperor, but people are going to look down on her. Choi Yosip said it's not like she didn't do anything, she did her best. She thinks it's not enough because Money King has already planned what he wants. Among the villains, the four evil kings are considered absolute, but they only care about making money. However, that old man now wants to manipulate the Vilzones, probably wants to take the place of the Emperor. They only have one last way, thanks to Kong-woo's power, to get inside the path that leads to Crow's sealed coffin test. Thanks to Kong-woo, he can use darkness as a medium to move freely between spaces. With that skill, it shouldn't be difficult for Money to get into Crow's sealed coffin. Black Hand's men came to see Kong-woo, saying that they wanted to become stronger. He asked if they had ever been properly trained to become stronger. All of them answered no, some said to get ready to go to the gym. Kong-woo looked at them and said that desire is not enough, they need to have the will and determination to endure. No matter how difficult or harsh the training is. The Black Hand sat on the ground shouting loudly, showing his determination that he would do it, his desire or will. More importantly, he didn't want to be seen as weak trash anymore, he wanted to become stronger. If they had volunteered like that, he had no reason to refuse. Moreover, in order to fight against the four evil kings, including the Money King and Lampoos, he must make those on his side stronger. Kong-woo said that if they want to really become stronger, they have to prepare themselves well in advance. Before that, 3 people need to pass the test. Includes 1,000 push-ups, swings and even a squat, and finally a 30 kilometers run. Morning and evening 3 times a day, and the test will last a week. Seeing the black ghost standing nearby, he asked him to observe the rest to see if they did. If they wanted to, they could join. Driver went to ask everyone why gathered here, is there anything interesting? He said he had something important to tell him. In case he didn't expect him to easily agree to Winterbell's offer. Driver said it seemed Mu Jin and the other vassals were of the same opinion. They trusted and entrusted this matter to Kong-woo. If you agree, they deploy today. Kong-woo noticed a letter on the table, which they wanted him to separate to find. Moros told him it was the blueprint for the platinum disc. Kong-woo has come up with the condition for this trip that is all information about that object. Driver looked at the map in his hand. It must have been difficult to find information about that thing and he didn't know what it was. Thinking about Kong-woo making conditions on this thing, he thought he knew what it was. Yoo Sung-jun went to Yoo Chai-ha's pub to chat for a long time before coming here. Yoo Chai-ha said it's been a year and 2 months since he came to Gadam. He said it would be convenient for someone like you to stay here and change your identity. Yoo Chai-ha didn't care what he said but gave the wine but then took it back. He said he had to give money at his pub first. Yoo Sung-jun asked if it couldn't be for free. Didn't the alcohol also get into his hands? I asked him to join, but this is my pub. I can't do anything I want to do, and also if I say bad things in this pub, I will be punished. I mean, stop talking nonsense and get straight to the point. After hearing that, Yoo Sung-jun said the name Cassian. He wanted to hear what he thought. According to Yoo Chai-ha's opinion, it is better for Yoo Sung-jun to go to Cassian in person than to sit here and listen to him. He disagreed, saying he wanted to hear you speak first. Then mysteriously said, in the eyes of Yu Chai-ha, who used to be a spiker. He was curious what he thought of him. Black Hand's people were constantly complaining because of too much training, but they were still determined not to give up. Moros said the people worked harder than he thought. Kong Wu had to see if they would try. Moros thought he was looking forward to this, or maybe he was imagining it. When Kong Wu heard that, he replied that everyone has the desire to become stronger, but there are very few people who are willing to overcome all difficulties to be like that. Talking to each other for a while, Moros realized that he wanted to increase the power of Vilzone Gadam. It asked if Kong Wu was trying to increase his influence. He asked in return what effect it had. Looking at the people in his hand was very uncomfortable. Yu Sung Jun went to find Kong Wu. He introduced him to the vassal Blinding Darkness serving the king of Winterbell. Kong Wu secretly thought that the person who asked Driver to investigate the platinum disc was him. He heard that he was willing to help them. Kong Wu frankly said that he did not agree but was accepting the request. Hearing this, Sung Jun got a little angry and asked if he was wrong. Recently, he also heard about your reputation, just defeated a good guy who was already overjoyed. Kong Wu said if he had investigated carefully, he would have acted more properly. Not long ago he also defeated Mu Jin boss Vilzone in Namkong. Mu Jin is also the king of this guy. He said you're fighting other people thinking you can do everything, and calling yourself victory and worshipping yourself. Moros said in a low voice that he thought the guy was right. Wu Sung Jun smiled slightly and said that he was like an unreasonable liar. It's not true to say that there was a problem with his personality in the first place. Kong Wu angrily asked him to stop rambling. When he came to fight, he used his fists to say. Yu Sung Jun heard the brutality of the villains in Gadam unexpectedly to be true. Now he will cleanse Kong Wu of that bad habit, and then he rushes forward. Before that, Yu Chai-ha told him that he was a belligerent, brutal, and didn't care about rank. Because of his bad personality, no villain would follow him, and one more thing, he was extremely shameless and undisciplined. Unlike Kong Wu, who possesses the shadow skill, Yu Sung Jun is the light. He said the light will prevail over the darkness, this is the rule. It was only a moment later that he wanted to retract those words in battle. He said he underestimated you. He admitted he was too careless. So Yu Sung Jun told him to get ready to know his strength. Kong Wu had heard that some villains used limits to hide their own power. Perhaps this guy standing in front of them was one of them. Seeing Kong Wu thinking, Yu Sung Jun said if he had listened to him at first, he wouldn't be so desperate now. Do not expect to receive mercy from him, he will make you pay for daring to make the king angry. Yu Sung Jun combined his power into a ball of light, that is the ultimate power. Kong Wu looked at the orb and smiled, being stupid just like that can't defeat him. He gathered his dark powers and said that where light shines, darkness will coexist. Kong Wu easily destroyed the light orb, but Yu Sung Jun said it's not over yet, he still has an evil trump card. When he was about to strike the next blow, he was hit by Kong Wu and bounced back. Yu Sung Jun did not understand what was happening. Although he did not use all his strength, he did not expect to be beaten like this. Driver and Kong Hee-sun came together to ask why they were fighting again. They arrived at the right time. Yu Sung Jun showed a bored attitude towards the two. This was an opportunity for him to show his true strength. He said that because he was interrupted, he couldn't do anything anymore. Driver brought popcorn and sat down and said he came to watch you two fight. He pointed to Kong Wu's face and said he withdrew today, but you should take care of him. Kong Wu stopped him and didn't let him leave. He had many questions to ask him. What is a vassal of Winterbell like him up to right now? He saw him trying to stop Mu Jin from becoming the king of Winterbell. Because he was forced by everyone there, he had to confess that he wanted to protect her. If Mu Jin becomes the king of Winterbell, will become his target. The most evil and powerful of the four great evil kings, not the Money King. Red Death Peony, he will target Mu Jin. After hearing that, Kong Wu casually said that the crazy guy was targeting Mu Jin again. Driver quickly caught this and asked if he knew him too. Kong Wu thought to himself, but he didn't know, he was the top villain that the Psyker wanted to destroy. With Shanghai as his headquarters, he invaded Jiangsu and Zhejiang became the leader. The Chinese government could not ignore this, so it took special measures. Join Lampoos and launch a special campaign to wipe out Red Death and his minions. Spikers from all over the world are participating in this campaign, among them there is even a top-ranked spiker. But in the end the campaign failed and no one returned alive. Yu Sung-jun was sure Mu Jin would draw his sword to attack Red Death, out of revenge. The father of Mu Jin, the previous emperor of Winterbell, was assassinated by the Red Death. Driver says revenge is probably the biggest reason why Mu Jin wants to be king. But not to mention that revenge, Red Death will return to Korea, because Winterbell is a cancer in the eyes of both Red Death and Money King. Kong Wu asked everyone if fighting Red Death was inevitable. No matter what they do, it'll still rain and they'll still get wet, so just attack. Driver also agreed with him that if he was afraid of those bugs and didn't dare to try, it would only cause more problems. Yu Sung-jun shouted, how can he be so arrogant? The one they were up against was the four evil kings, the strongest villains. Kong Wu refused to give up and asked him what if that was the case. A Vilzone boss cannot fight against the four evil kings. As he said, fighting them now is a complete failure. Kong Wu said but in the near future he will make them kneel at their feet. Now, you will help Mu Jin become king of Winterwell first. You ask Driver to book the date in advance. Mu Jin secretly thought that her father had also passed away for 5 years. During these 5 years to achieve her goal, she tried her best, but it seemed that she had only just put together a small piece of the puzzle. The Driver wants to take her to the place where the remains are, but Mu Jin doesn't agree to go somewhere else first. Bang Sung Tae, a student in the same class as Seo Ji-ho, is being interviewed by reporters. He recently won first place in the national competition. The reporter wanted to hear a little bit about his determination to compete in the National Youth Psycher competition organized by Lampoos in the next 2 months. He said it would be good if he could win. But he wanted this experience to be the stepping stone for him to become the strongest psycher. The reporter said that he wants to be the strongest, that is to say, he wants to be the top psycher. Bang Sung Tae confidently said that everyone has big dreams for themselves. By the way, talking about the top psycher, they mentioned the recent celebrity Wu Chan. He felt sorry that the two of them didn't realize they were in the same middle school sooner. Because of the same goal, he thought the two would become good friends. At this time, his phone showed a message from Cha In-boom asking if he had finished the interview. Unexpectedly, when he got there, he heard that his best friend had a problem with Wu Chan. The story is that he wanted to pursue Na-eun even though she refused, he still followed. Finally, he met her brother Wu Chan. There he also saw Seo Ji-ho, a schoolmate with them. When he heard the news, he didn't have time to say anything and ran away. Now he's making up stories saying that Wu Chan despises the students of their school and more unpleasant things to hear. When Bang Sung Tae heard it, he was very angry and said that Wu Chan would pay the price. On the other side, Kong Wu kept listening to everyone and even Driver talking about the deliciousness of the macaron, so he also went to buy it. He bought all the remaining cakes. The girl who came later also wanted to buy for her father's anniversary. After hearing that, Kong Wu gave all the cakes to the girl, but he didn't expect that person to be Mu Jin, the old man who fought him. Moros did not expect Kong Wu to sympathize with strangers, he must have remembered Jeff. Moros said there was something absurd that he probably didn't realize. The person they just met inside the store was Mu Jin. Kong Wu calmly said he knew, but it wasn't true either. He didn't know that person was Mu Jin, he just thought she wasn't normal. When that girl approached, her aura was very different. The calluses on that girl's hands must have been sword training every day. The appointed day quickly arrived, and everyone gathered in front of Crow's sealed coffin. Yu Sung-jun said constantly that the sealed coffin is a dangerous place full of traps, just one wrong step and he could die. How many times did Kong Wu disgustedly ask him if he was a parrot? Driver laughed and wished him luck. I believe he did well. Mu Jin approached him only to tell him to take care. Once he entered, the first thing to do was to find the dark orb at the entrance. Because the inside of the sealed coffin was extremely dark, he couldn't see anything. When you find the dark orb, put your hand up and pour mana into it, it will light up. Kong Wu saw the orb light up one after another and told Moros that he had stolen one. It was reported that there were also rumors that Cassian had fought Mu Jin. Oh, Nam Chul said he has yet to confirm the rumor. The old man thought that if the rumor was true, the overconfident Cassian would be beaten enough. Meeting regularly showed that they had prepared specific goals. He ordered him to quickly find out. Investigate Winterbell's situation even more carefully. He paused for a moment and continued to investigate everything about the name Cassian. Kong Wu currently holds in his hand a red mana stone extracted from the incense burner. Moros said it was a blood mana crystal, not a normal mana crystal. It absorbed the bodies of those sacrificed. It was so strong that no other crystal could match. But this is also an extremely dangerous thing because it contains the entity of death. This spell drives most villains crazy even just wielding it. Moro said that if he was still bothered now, he should wait until he became stronger to absorb it. Kong Wu put the mana inside and looked at the sword beside him. He was about to go to absorb mana from it when he saw the familiar pattern on the blade. Although the color is slightly different, it is similar to the sword Mu Jin uses. Kong Wu returned to announce that he had completed the quest to let everyone know and asked for information about the sword. Mu Jin said it was a white tiger sword. It disappeared after the death of the previous generation of emperors and was also a symbol of the evil sword clan. The white tiger sword is the twin sword of the black dragon ant. If mana is infused into the sword, one can control the direction of the sword. After hearing that, Kong Wu thought to himself that it was lucky he hadn't extracted its mana. Mu Jin sincerely thanked Kong Wu for finding it here for her. She also asked for more information about the incense burner. The current incense burner has returned to its original state. The negative energy has disappeared, so there is no need for traps anymore. Looks like someone purposely planted a sword there to reinforce the trap that seals the incense burner. Yu Sung Jun had heard that the previous leader did not use the white tiger sword when fighting Red Death. If Kong Wu is right, then surely the person who put the sword inside Crow's sealed coffin was the previous leader. So that also means that this is the arrangement of the previous leader left to Mu Jin. Kong Wu said that the coffin was sealed, so Mu Ji is about to become the king of Winterbell. Mu Jin said this is only half of the plan. She must receive the final assessment of the Winterbell Council in France. Crow's sealed coffin is just a process for the final evaluation. Mu Ji thinks to get the right to become the Winterbell Emperor. After all, the place that became the mainstay and brought her to the position of proving herself was Vilzone in Namkong. At that time, the emperor died leaving a too young son, Mu Jin. Everyone in the clan began to compete for the position of that emperor. There are people who strongly oppose Mu Jin, a 15-year-old girl becoming the leader of the family, and that child is not even a villain. But at that time Mu Jin stood up and said she would do it. As the head of the family, she will prove herself qualified to become the Winterbell Emperor. Mu Jin also announced to the clan that she would kill the Red Death and avenge her father with her own hands. She will first have to prove them by becoming the worm of a Vilzone. Money King soon received information that Mu Jin went to France alone. He did not expect her to pass Crow's sealed coffin test. His subordinates went to give him the Cassian report he needed earlier. The Money King stared at it for a while and said it was a monster. But he did not allow his subordinates to kill people. Even if it took more effort, it would be better if he could win. He laughed and said the Cassian would be a great addition to his collection. Perhaps he contributed a lot to Mu Jin to get past Crow's sealed coffin, but unfortunately this was not in his mind. The other director said that Mu Jin is currently absent. As long as he gives orders, he will summon 7 managers and suppress the evil sword clan. Money King said there is no need to do that because there are many beneficial pieces, so there is no need to work. Ancient Blue Viper, he will act soon. He is an evil old viper without any authority, a vassal, but wants to devour his master. Originally wanting to make Mu Jin his puppet, he secretly took over Winterbell because the evil sword clan wasn't enough for him. But later, because of Mu Jin's growth, he was forced to change his mind. To sharpen the sword for the future, perhaps after Mu Jin left, he used everything he had prepared so far. His subordinates heard about this and guessed that it might just be Xinhua district. He raised it very carefully. In terms of attack power alone, they are pretty much the strongest. A civil war will happen within that family soon. The director said Gadam might get involved, so it would keep them busy for a bit. Just as Money King had predicted, Vilzone in Xinhua district, where Mad Pin's owner was hiding, welcomed VPER. The 2 old men talked about the future when their long-awaited opportunity arrived. Mu Jin sends Kong Wu 3 magic stones for helping her. Driver today also received a message informing Kong Wu. The moves of the guys in the Xinhua district are not good. They must be targeting the people in Seoul, Boksan, Namkong and Gadam. Xinhua district is a place with many of the strongest Vilzones in the world. There are many people with the same strength as Vilzone bosses. Driver showed Kong Wu a picture. The person they need to pay attention to the most is Python. He was one of the 3 famous leaders who spent a lot in 1v1. Driver remembered that he had also fought Money King before. The results were obvious. He lost, but it was a great match. However, as far as I know, he is not the boss of Xinhua. The real boss is a guy named Mad Pin. Normally the boss is very strong, but Mad Pin is not. He took that position because he carefully calculated himself to become very adept in large-scale battles. Especially his extremely annoying skill is psychological manipulation. He has the ability to manipulate others to his will. Viper got in the car and left Shinhwa with Mad Pin's words in his mind. If you want to get what you want, you have to work with him and divide the results fairly. Otherwise, the difference will lead to arguments and then they will start to get mad. You thought he would be a docile dog but turned into a cunning fox. If he refuses to be tamed, he is out of the way. Viper called out to Yoon the butler to create a group of good hunters for him. The faster he added, the better. Seeing things broken made him tired. On the other side of Mad Pin's group, after seeing Viper leave, they laughed together about whether to follow the old man or the Money King. In the end, Mad Pin is the one who makes the decision. Although that side is corrupt, but on Viper's side, they are getting along well with those people, so they continue to be loyal. After playing for a while, they will jump to the side of the Money King. Kong Wu received the body magic stone this time, but it didn't feel like the magic power had been increased. Moros was right as he thought. It seems he has reached his maximum when absorbing the mana stone. If it's not a real mana stone, the magic won't increase. Kong Wu thinks he has a blood mana stone, but now absorbing it is quite dangerous. Although it took a long time, he needed to achieve S rank in the normal way. Although the health stone was important, if he reached S rank, he could unlock the hidden skill on his own. Now Kong Wu knows he needs an even harsher type of training. Moros asked him what he was going to do with the remaining mana stones. Kong Wu said because it was a gift, he couldn't sell it. In the C-zone of Villezone in Gadam district, the Black Hands people are being trained by the Black Ghost. Even though the three of them were lying flat on the ground, he still told them to get up quickly. That's all, the three of them. The voice of the Black Ghost resounding as a useless thing, not allowed to fall, not allowed to kneel. Among the three of them, there was still a hidden fire that needed to be ignited. That fire was will. Black Ghost said he would teach them every inch of will. Black Hand sat on the ground cursing him even harder than before. Black Hand thought that because he trained a lot, he always thought that he had become stronger, but he did not expect to be so weak. Kong Wu appeared asking him to bring gifts for everyone. Black Hand knelt on the ground to say no. It increased the difficulty of the exercise. Seeing Kong Wu bring out a box filled with high-quality mana stones, everyone's eyes lit up. He said of course he didn't simply give these things to them. Before receiving them they need to do one thing. That night Kong Wu did not expect Viper's butler Yoon to come and see him. Viper says he will go straight to the point. He will give soul back to you. Kong Wu asked him if he was powerful enough to do that. But the two of them talking alone is enough to prove it. Viper says if you want he will give half of soul to you right now. Kong Wu asked if he would be a good dog by his grandfather's side in return. Viper did not deny that he needed him to be his partner. You probably already know this, but his current situation is not very good. If you're not careful, all of Villezone will fall into the hands of the Money King, and to fight the Money King he really needs your power. Kong Wu clearly understood him, but he still deliberately asked why he was involved in this, so it should be Mu Jin. He said Mu Jin was too young and too emotional. It's too difficult to rationalize against a tycoon like Money King and Mu Jin. Kong Wu said directly from his understanding that he was betraying his master. Wasn't he close to Mu Jin? If in his words this is the best choice, then he will understand that Mu Jin can't but he can. Viper took it for granted. He used another reason to convince him. Currently, Gadam's infrastructure is still limited, such as water and electricity. Right now, he can still bear it, but in the future, things will definitely happen. He will remove those restrictions because he owns the water company. Viper didn't expect Kong Wu's condition to be just a magic stone. But what he didn't expect was that Kong Wu returned to tell Driver everything. He laughed and told him to pretend to listen but watch out for suspicion. Driver thought for a moment and then said that the old man really started. They need to purge the traitor. At the Neo Center, Money received news from his subordinates that Viper and Cassian had met last night. The purpose of this meeting was to stop outside forces before the civil war broke out. Money complimented the old fox well. He acknowledged the way he did things. Director Kim Neo Sentry said that at this rate Viper could achieve everything. In order for him to gain control of Winterbell and the Villezones in Seoul, that's why the Money King helped him. Honestly, he didn't expect him to do this much. Mu Jin has to work harder. To be the king of Winterbell, she must overcome all this. Money was curious as to how she would feel when she returned from France and saw Winterbell fall into the hands of someone else. Lens Girl said it was the feeling of being crushed like a cookie. And there's also the feeling of being betrayed, stabbed in the back by one's own vassal. After all, that was the plan she had cherished for a long time to avenge her father. If the plan falls through, it will be difficult for Moonjin to get over this shock. The director next door saw the problem of Money King trying to turn Viper into a bad guy, and then enlisted Moonjin to side with him because of these things. Kong Woo went to school today. He felt the atmosphere around him was very different. Everyone is arguing about the impending war by two villains. Moro said the same articles were published at the same time. It must have been someone behind. The scale of the incident this time is definitely Viper. Wu Chan followed behind and asked him to give him a gift bag. He said it was because of his sister's request. Although he didn't want to admit it, his sister seemed to have feelings for Kong Woo. The photo of the two standing together given by Wu Chan was taken by someone and posted online. Everyone who met Na-eun said that they understood why her brother still has no lover until now. Leaders of all industries are saying the same thing. They must increase restrictions on Vilzone now. Gadam district in particular, the report says, has reached the highest level of risk. It is said that because of the competition for territory, the Vilzones still have disputes, and all of these things originate in the Gadam district. The title of cruel criminals does not seem to be enough to recreate Vilzone in Gadam district. Lee Dae-wong watched TV and asked him who he was to talk nonsense like this. Ji-sun said it was a university professor. He was angry and said something that was safe for the residents, but his words clearly wanted the Vilzones to fight each other. Ju-sun said that the bad guys in Gadam are the ones who ruined Boksan, so they deserve it. If his report is true, then the villain Gadam is the hero who saved a kidnapped resident. That means they have at least a little humanity, but he also knows, this truth will not be believed by anyone. Not only sabotaging Boksan, but Gadam also caused many other things. Obviously this is completely false information. Lee Dae-wong asked Ji-sun who the mastermind behind this was. The mastermind must be a media and social media influencer. Kong Si-woo came in from outside and happily greeted branch manager Ji-sun. She is a regular psyker, the first to join the elite team. And in just one chase, he caught the notorious Russian villain in Busan. After coming to say hello to everyone, she wanted to leave because she had an appointment with her cousin. Ji-sun asked if her brother named Bang Sung-tae had just won the first prize in the national competition. At Gadam High School, after school, Kong Woo decided to go to a cafe to study for a while before returning. Moros was curious if he said he wouldn't go to college, why did he study hard? Kong Woo saw Na-eun waiting for his brother in front of him and asked Moros to shut up. Kong Woo is wondering if what Wu Chan said in the morning is true. Before, someone came to Bang Sung-tae and asked him what he would think if the villain and psyker fought. She told him not to pressure her. She reminded her that she would send someone to help. Bang Sung-tae thought to himself, how can he stand this, a top potential psyker like him. Head of the department January Jung-eun was the one who came to see him earlier, and also In-bom. In-bom comes to tell him the truth now that he is like him, facing financial problems. In-bom said that the immediate problem the two need to face is to get rid of the villains in Gadam. He also prepared a list of people to work with. Bang Sung-tae felt that he was extremely suspicious and even prepared. He thought to himself, before he met the head of the department, Han Jung-eun, something happened. He began to question if this was planned and then dumped it all on his head. In-bom tells him not to worry, they won't tame the Vilzones, just pretending to be fighting them. In-bom said if he thought with their power they could destroy even Vilzone Gadam. They're all a bunch of mixed up villains, tricking them into being elites who've been through the regular curriculum. Simply put, it's like adults fighting with children right now. These words of In-bom made Bang Sung-tae feel right. Even if they have many people, they can't join forces to fight, so they will be separated and will be defeated. On top of that, if those villains hadn't been properly trained before, they wouldn't have become a worthy opponent for Psyker. In-bom thought of two people they could turn to for help, Wu Chan and Sung Tae's cousin. They are sure that Wu Chan will agree because of the hatred of the father who was killed by the villain. But they didn't expect Wu Chan not only to disagree, but also to ask them to be careful. Wu Chan's conversation with the other two inside the cafe was overheard by Kong Woo. He quietly left the shop and went into another alley thinking that the Psyker trainees are really terrible these days, wanting to attack a Vilzone too. Kong Woo didn't know whether to call this reckless or stupid. He wasn't even like that when he was their age. He asked Moros so Wu Chan would join them too. Suddenly a voice behind her replied that she wouldn't be part of it. Kong Woo suddenly asked how Na-eun knew he was here. Na-eun tells him that her abilities have been awakened. He guessed it was probably because her brother was a psyker, but why would she tell him that secret? Na-eun said she didn't know but just wanted to tell him. Since he's not a bad person, he saved her many times and Na-eun wants to thank her directly. Kong-woo said that it was not a coincidence that she already knew his identity. He asked if she had identification skills. Na-eun is also unsure but not the recognition skill, because she can only see the past, not the present. She clearly remembered what was happening around her. Everything ran through her head like a vivid movie. Even if she couldn't see it, if it was within the normal range, her mind would still remember it, whether she was asleep or unconscious. Kong-woo wants her to keep his identity a secret, because no one knows except for her. Na-eun calmly answered incorrectly, many people already know. On the other side, Viper kept looking for people from Gadam to his side. His men were sure that once Cassian was on his side, the number of people joining would also increase, but Viper didn't want to prolong it any longer. Because they could get caught, Mu Jin's people beside them weren't stupid. While chatting, Barracuda received orders from the Money King to also come to his aid. Viper, when he saw Barracuda's arrival, he thought that just a month ago he had been beaten to pieces by Cassian. Barracuda asked what kind of expression Viper was having, as if he didn't believe him. He remembered that Money had said he would give him a trusted assistant, so he thought that person would be the manager. Viper says he doesn't want to use a pile of trash that was defeated by Cassian and kicked his ass out of Villezone. Barracuda says he is the one who is looking down on him. If he wants to, he will show it to see how his power has been restored. Viper didn't expect him to have so much blood. He was curious as to where he got that strength, and after being kicked out of Boken, he did not sit still. Unless there is help from Money King, this is not possible. There are rumors that Barracuda and Money are related by blood. He doesn't know if that's true or not. Seeing that Viper would never talk to him, Barracuda said he would help him get the winter bell he wanted. After that, Cassian and Driver must be his. He will finish them off with his own hands. Kong-woo also did not sit around waiting for the enemy to come, but he worked hard to train everyone. He pointed out each person's strengths and weaknesses and then arranged them to be suitable for use in battle. After arranging for everyone to practice, he went to find Viper. Driver first found 2 terms related to platinum discs. He asked him if he had heard of thalassa, which in ancient Greek means sea and another means flood. Kong-woo asked what the sea and flood have to do with platinum. But that's just a hunch, maybe it's related to the flood myth. Another word is mask. When it comes to this word, Driver sees that Kong-woo is surprised. Driver says he doesn't know what mark means, but he's probably interested in platinum. The two could be ancient words put together. Kong-woo tells him that mark is the name of a sword created in the mythical period. The people led by Bang Sung Tae had now arrived at Gadam's Villezone. Everyone told each other not to separate. Their priority is to return safely, not defeat those bastards. And for that to happen, everyone has to act as a team just like in school training. Kong-hoon said that everyone must choose the captain to give orders when fighting. Bang Sung Tae said he would be the captain. Although he was opposed when he went in the first snow, it was difficult to see around, but he still insisted on doing that position. Everyone planned to infiltrate inside Villezone within 30 minutes. In addition to the crowd of friends of Bang Sung Tae, there were a few more people who went live with them. Kong-hoon said they shouldn't venture into this place, but if everyone was here there wouldn't be any danger. Driver was on the phone with Royal when he stopped to look at the display. Something interesting was about to happen. Uninvited outside guests are visiting his residence. He thought it was Psyker, but clearly it was just a student at Psyker school. Driver laughed thinking, why are these kids here? Kong-woo was practicing when he received an emergency summon. I don't know what happened again. Those people went inside for a while, then said that the place didn't look too bad. Rumors all say that this place is filled with cruel villains. Bang Sung Tae went ahead and told them not to let their guard down. The true nature of the villain is cowardice and cruelty. They don't know when and where they will be raided, so everyone needs to be careful. Everyone in the group praised Bang Sung Tae as a good captain. Having him with everyone feels more secure. Bang Sung Tae, when he gave an interview, even turned on the phone and said that they were all elites, the villains were nothing to them. Moments later they were stopped by a villain in a red helmet who claimed to be the strongest villain in Gadam. Wu Chan still remembers Sung Ta's words, pointing at him in the face, calling him a coward, and dragging his father out. Looking at the red hat box given by Driver earlier, Wu Chan recalled the words Kong-woo once said. At that time, he did not expect that he would help him when one is evil and the other is Psyker. Kong Wu replied that they were all for good reasons, so there was no need to make such a clear distinction. But Kong Wu understands Wu Chan's current way of thinking, because before he could only look the same way. Psyker is the righteous and the villain is the villain. He used to think that all or nothing thinking is everything. Kong Wu told Wu Chan not just because he believes it to be true, it will be true. And if you're in doubt, think a crazy villain is acting. Wearing this hat today, Wu Chan told himself that acting is not suitable for a psyker who always pursues what is right. Black Hand's men were practicing hard when they received bad news from another villain. That person told everyone to hurry outside, the psykers are already here. Now, when he sees Red Mask, Sung Tae is a little worried because this person has been reminded by Wu Chan before. That person said whether it was an apprentice or a psyker, once he stepped inside, it was against the rules. Vilzone is not a playboy, so he wants them to leave while he's still good. The two people on the live stream shouted inside the phone that a villain was threatening them. Sung Tae asked if he wanted him to come back, but if he didn't want to, he could fight this many people by himself. At the same time, Black Hand's men also arrived. Black Ghost tried to command everyone to fight and Black Hand went up to receive the bullets himself. He even laughed when he was attacked without being hurt. Driver looked at the screen and said it was a bit funny, but it looks like the kids are here to do the fieldwork. Kong Wu saw that there were two guys inside the cafe that day, and also Wu Chan. What was he doing? Driver said that even if it was just a bunch of kids, they couldn't ignore trespassing in this territory. Kong Wu asked him if he was going to handle this, which was a bit enthusiastic. Not true. Driver said he had other work to do. Since he had already contacted Red Eye before, he would take care of this as well. Kong Wu said it's not very appropriate. The case itself has too many things to deal with. Driver asked which side he was worried about. Of course, the other kids, except for Black, the other three were considered idiots. But this time they were trained like real combat. Right now, they are the best teamwork, so this fight is like Rooster versus Chick. Driver thinks it's right. These guys are always full of energy. Driver asks Raven to tell her that the work here is left to her. Kong Wu now realizes that the reason Driver called him here wasn't because of those kids. Driver walked to the door and said that the two of you would go to purge the traitors. Those kids, seeing Black Hand risking their lives like that, wondered if he was a tank. Seeing that everyone was starting to worry, Sung Tae asked everyone to maintain the front line. Ignore that tank and aim for healing first. Crush, receiving command from Black Ghost, also rushes into battle. He went up to gently break the opponent's spear in two and said what a toothpick could do. The guy angrily asked what trick he just used. Crush didn't pay attention to what he was saying and just focused on finishing the battle. Wu Chan says don't look down on their Vilzine. Bang. Sung Tae angrily asked him not to be so arrogant. Wu Chan watched him think that the chain attack was good. Enough to be a potential top-tier psyker, but not enough to make his body wobble. Although Wu Chan was fighting, his mouth kept asking when they would run away. On the rooftop of Vilzone Gadam, Driver showed Kong Wu a VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing. It's a new model that has just been completed testing not long ago. Kong Wu was curious where he got this. Drvir said it was made by himself. With an aerodynamic design that can travel at extremely fast supersonic speeds, it only takes a few minutes to arrive. In addition, it also has a stealth function, so there is no need to worry about being detected by radar. When Kong Wu heard this, he thought Driver was too scary. Backhand watched as the opponent gave him a punch, he dodged it and then praised the name as being quite powerful. Red Eye said in vain to stop telling them to stop fighting. If they left quietly now, he wouldn't do anything. Kong Hoon thought to himself that if he had been the leader of the group before, this wouldn't have happened. Backhand asked him if he was going to let them go, but he didn't. I told him to stop everything here. If the car got big, it would be difficult to control. The backhand did not agree to run up to attack them, but was pulled back by some force. One person showed up and asked them to stop the livestream. He had a hunch, but he didn't think he should interfere. But if you keep watching, something bad will happen. Black Ghost said he was Go Sung Chul, a regular S-rank psyker from Xinhua District. Viper said it had been a long time since the four of them had gathered like this. Royal said it was because the elder wasn't there that day, but they still saw each other often. He pretended not to hear those words, but said that the King of Winterbell was absent. Money King is an old and experienced conspirator. Mu Jin won't be able to fight him. Viper says he will make important decision for the whole family and everyone will have to help him. Everyone at the table pretended not to understand what he was saying. Barracuda appears saying that Viper wants you to be obedient dogs. The mansion of the ancient blue viper. Everyone there was surprised by Barracuda's presence. Royal said he allowed outsiders to interfere in Winterbell's affairs, also the one who ran away and was defeated by Cassian. When Barracuda heard that, he was very angry and said that if he kept lying like that, he would die one day. Royal also refused to give up, saying he was too confident. Give him a try. Viper stops the two of them. He has something to say, it's just that he forgot to say it. In everyone's teacup, he put DS in, because everyone drank it, he couldn't become a villain anymore. Royal ridiculed that he behaved like a venomous viper. He said for the last time that if he did not take his side, everyone interrupted him to stop him from continuing. Everyone refused to follow him and didn't want to betray Mu Jin. At this point Barracuda turned to ask if he could kill them. Red Shot came in from outside the door and told him to leave his share as well. Kong Hee-sun angrily claimed to be an elder and let a bunch of outsiders interfere. He said it was all for the future, as Winterbell's vassal and elder he had to make the right decisions. Then Viper told the other two to have fun. Kong Wu just arrived and kicked the door to attack Barracuda. Driver also appeared shortly after and asked him that he had just arrived and broke the door in. This meeting is serious, you have to behave carefully. Viper angrily called out Cassian's name. Didn't he promise to side with him when the magic stone was available? Kong Wu laughed and said where he gave it, so it doesn't count. Everyone got up from the table. They had seen him suspicious before, so they did not use water. Viper asks why people dare to bring outsiders in, the other two because he allows it. Drive said with a laugh, we were allowed in too. He was angry and said that he lied. If he didn't let him in, who would dare to enter? Mu Jin appeared saying that it was because she let them in. Raven appeared in the Black Hands fight, fortunately saving him a life. She stood in front of him saying it was her turn to have fun with these people. Before coming here, Kong Si-woo received a notice to be careful with the three evil drivers, Cassian and Raven. Viper at this time did not expect Mu Jin's appearance. It took several months to assess her right to become the Winterbell Emperor. Mu Jin tells him she tried to cut the time down as much as possible. Red Shot stood on the other side and told her that he hadn't seen her in a long time, unexpectedly meeting here again. Mu Jin asked who he was and why he said he had been waiting for her for so long. He brought a weapon to attack her to remind her who he was and never to forget. Unexpectedly, at this moment, someone from behind brought a sword to his neck. Viper knew that these people were the Black Sika, the ones who carried out the orders of the Emperor Winterbell. He wondered if she could gain king's powers in such a short time. Those people said they couldn't let go of your betrayal. The ancient Blue Viper will be stripped of its title of elder and banished. Barracuda looked at the situation and thought it was not over. He recalled Money King's words that fighting spirit is what wins a battle. No matter how dangerous it is, if the spirit is still there, the opportunity will definitely open. If you want to win, you can't lose your fighting spirit. Now is the time. In order to get out of this situation, he must reverse the situation. Barracuda got up from the ground and walked over to Cassian saying that he wanted to challenge him. Kong Wu easily agreed and easily defeated him. At this time Money King's man appeared. He wanted to be reconciled. Kong Wu asked the other director what if he refused. He just mysteriously said that the two of you couldn't delay any longer. Driver understood that the war going on really needed two people to return. 4 years ago, even though Ji-sun had just finished fighting Si-woo, she was still practicing hard. She advised Si-woo to test his limits before practicing. Si-woo worriedly stood outside reminding her that she would hurt herself. Ji-sun said that although the training process is boring and tedious, it is necessary. There is no shortcut to becoming stronger. Ji-sun's goal is to become a top-notch psyker, which all psykers aim for. More importantly, there was someone she wanted to beat, an arrogant man who claimed the title of youngest top-tier psyker, whom the two had met back in America. She also said that she would put all her strength into fighting him next time, but she didn't know when the next time would be. It was also a great experience for her. Of course there are higher mountains. Si-woo said that the Sunbae who complimented him so much must be a very powerful person. Among the top-ranked psykers, he is a melee fighter. He also said that whether the opponent is weak or strong, family member or colleague, when fighting, you need to use all your strength. He said that if he can do those things, he can be as strong as him. An arrogant idiot much smaller than Ji-sun. Now that she was fighting with Raven, she thought about it again. What she wants most right now is to be as strong as that person. With 200% of her strength she will destroy everything. Black Hand wanted to go in and fight but was held back by Crush. Red Eye said it would be troublesome to get involved with those psychers, and if they didn't attend, they wouldn't be so reckless. Someone could see that the one who wasn't giving his all at the moment was Raven, not their captain. Driver and Kong Wu had just arrived at this time. Driver interrupted their fight, stopping the two temporarily. A person on the other side stood up to apologize for today's incident. Kong Wu only softly said that if he did something wrong, he must receive punishment. When everyone heard Kong Wu finished saying that bridge, everyone present was surprised. Black Hand in the distance shouted like that, Big Brother was different. Red Eye kept breaking out in a cold sweat. Why did it turn out like this? Raven looked out and asked Driver why Kong Wu was so angry right now. The mysterious driver with no head and no tail said that someone poured fuel on the fire, then used the attitude of preparing to watch the movie. Si Wu again picked up the dance and said that he suddenly appeared and demanded punishment for them. This proposal was too difficult to accept. For a veteran psyker of the Special Evil Purge Force, that would be impossible. After all, she said, the indomitable spirit is the righteous thing that the psykers always uphold. Kong Wu asked if everyone's actions just now were righteous. Then this time she struck first, he would let her go more easily, for him that was justice. The other students didn't understand what was going on either. Si Wu's disdain to speak is speechless, not expecting even the wicked but also demanding to preach about justice. Kong Wu asked her what she was going to do, but without notice, rushed in. You made a mess again, you guys should pay the price for that. Raven asks Driver if Kong Wu is angry, looking like he's having a good time. Si Wu said that if punishment is so necessary, then punish her alone, but she definitely won't let the villains defeat her. Si Wu arrogantly said that she knew he had many achievements and she also wanted to confirm this rumor. In this match Wu Kong completely dominated. Wu Chan thinks that despite fighting the trump card of the Special Evil Purge Force, he is not inferior at all. It's not true that Kong Wu hasn't used the dark attribute yet. Honestly, Kong Wu is really overwhelming. Wu Chan can see that he is much stronger than before. Si Wu was not long after being hit in the leg by Kong Wu. The people behind all went up a step to call the captain. Si Wu is still watching what attack Kong Wu will do next. Whether it was a low kick or a high kick, she couldn't stand this kick anymore. Go Sung Chul saw that his leader couldn't take it anymore, so he stood from afar to help. Driver showed a disgusted attitude that they were clearly one-on-one, he was so annoying. Hearing that, Si Wu asked him what he was doing, she told him to stand outside. Go Sung Chul said that if she lost, her honor would be lost. He said that after she won this battle, he would be punished, and then the people she led also went up to attack. Kong Wu asked those people who are meddling in other people's matches without feeling ashamed, what is the thing they always call psychers' honor? A guy coming up from behind told him to shut up. The villain was not worthy to say those words. Driver don't from afar and start attacking them with weapons. Those people, when they saw Driver attack with a pre-weapon, scolded them as cowards. Driver jokingly says this is what you call hypocrisy. They were the ones who interfered in the previous match and from now on it would be a group match. Both Black Hand and Raven, upon hearing that sentence, were delighted to join. Red Eye stopped them from standing outside and watching, the two of them were enough. Driver brought a new weapon to attack, this weapon he just upgraded to. It's not bad to let these people be a guinea pig for a bit. One guy used a shield to protect everyone. The people behind him told him to hold out a little longer and they would defeat Driver. Kong Wu thought the guy using the white barrier to protect everyone was annoying but he looked familiar. Go Sung Chul took the opportunity that Kong Wu was attacking someone and used a chain to catch him. He proudly said it was his ultimate emergency skill. These chains also have the ability to reflect mana. If he is surrounded by chains, he will never be able to escape. Kong Wu told him to use the word, never, carefully. Another person took this opportunity to use fire to burn Kong Wu. She attacked while saying that a talkative person like you would be devoured by her flames. The fire was so great that everyone around was amazed. Others, seeing this, secretly sighed in relief, thinking they had already gone down to the golden stream. She laughed and said that the villains don't know their fate, her team is always the strongest. She boldly said that she would never be defeated by a bunch of villains like you. Kong Wu came out from the smoke, he told them to never use the word, never, like that. The arrogant girl just heard his voice fell to the ground, no way. A person who was bound by chains and caught in flames could still endure it. One of them shouted to everyone to be careful. Kong Wu disappeared. Soon they were all locked by the chains of darkness. Then he used a break to make them move away, Even the students forced their mouths to scream so cool. Go Sarung Chul lying on the ground slowly got up. He didn't believe his team would be defeated so easily. Kong Wu went to ask him how he had eaten onions and still hadn't woken up. Kong Wu was about to fight with Go Sung Chul when Ji Sun and Li Dae Wung arrived. When Si Wu saw her coming, he was very happy thinking that someone had avenged, but everyone there did not expect Ji Sun to make Si Wu quickly apologize to Kong Wu. It's wrong for them to bring people here on their own. The social network immediately went crazy about the incident that Psyker had to apologize to the villain. At the meeting, Mu Jin was also talking about this. Unexpectedly, the person who offered the apology was Ji Sun. What a scary woman. Yu Sung Jun asked that she had just flown back today and had a meeting again. Don't force yourself to remember to take care of your health. Mu Jin asked everyone why suddenly talking so seriously. Why not act like every day since she is the official Winterbell Emperor now? As a vassal whose duty was to serve the emperor, it was impossible for anyone to do that. Mu Jin doesn't want to argue anymore and tells them to do whatever they want. Gadam's side has no action. Royal replied that it was quiet over there right now, as usual. Cassian was still training alone, and Driver was tied up by everyone because they were worried about the side effects of breaking the limit. Mu Jin said it was a surprise, not to mention Driver. She thought Cassian would be mad. Royal said this was very complicated. If Kong Wu got mad, Lampu's headquarters would also intervene. He remembered that they even took Cassian's request. He said there was someone pulling the strings behind him asking everyone to investigate. Mu Jin says the person behind is most likely Money King. People talk about Viper, they can't forgive traitors. And the Xinhua district is responsible because they are currently protecting him. If Xinhua is on Money's side, it will be more difficult, so if you want to attack, you have to deploy early. Everyone unanimously chose Kong Wu to deal with Xinhua. The other side of the Mad Pin finally saw the problem. He thinks the villain Money King wants to focus his attention on himself. If everything goes according to plan today, the next person to die is probably Mad Pin right now. He decided that he couldn't sit idle and wait for someone to attack, so he went to see Mu Jin. At the South Korean branch of Lampu's, Si Wu sat down to write a review, but her mind was always apologizing to Kong Wu. When Si Wu said his apology, everyone was surprised. As for Kong Wu, he calmly said that if they have already apologized, they must also calculate the damage to compensate. Ji Sun opened the door to come in and said that she had heard a sigh from outside. Seeing her bring in 2 cans of water, Si Wu happily said that she thought she was home. Ji Sun said she asked someone to buy a job for her, but she hasn't been able to go home yet. Including Si Wu, Ji Sun has already written a report for each of them. Si Wu apologizes for causing trouble just coming to Seoul. As captain she needs to be more careful. At this moment, Ji Min texted Si Wu to tell her that everyone was fine, she didn't need to worry. Ji Sun calmly said of course it should be fine, although everyone has scratches but no fatal wounds. Even Yu Daegun's barrier was broken by Driver. Which means this is already under their control. Actually, Si Wu thought it was impossible to lose because they did a lot of research on Vilzone in Gadam district. She thought the only ones to keep an eye on were Driver and Raven. The others were nothing that could overwhelm them easily, but the people in Gadam were quite special. Ji Sun said especially Gadam's new boss, even his name bothered. His name is also very similar to the other. He also acts strangely unlike a villain, such as frequently saving civilians. Mu Jin went to find Kong Wu with Black Ghost. The 3 set off to Mad Pin's place. There they also meet the twins Aroma and Oat, who are monitoring the inner movements. Either one or the other has the ability to create poison. The purpose of this trip was to capture Viper, so they acted very gently. Vilzone Xinhua District Mad Pin's shelter. On the screen he watched Cassian, whispering that the mouse had appeared. Those people were all curious if Cassian came here alone, only him on camera. Another person came in to report that toxic clouds were detected around the western guard post. There are rumors that Kong Wu possesses dual attributes but there is no data to confirm that he used poison. From then on, these people knew he wouldn't go alone. Mad Pin asks which madman would use a strong man as bait. Kong Wu's goal here they guessed was because of Viper. Mad Pin thinks Kong Wu doesn't have enough reason or motivation to attack them, but Mu Jin is different because Viper is here. That means Kong Wu is currently collaborating with Mu Jin. Mad Pin, holding a glass of wine in his hand, laughed and unexpectedly came here by himself. Then he turned to ask his subordinates to prepare a welcome party, a feast befitting the Emperor Winterbell. Villezone Xinhua District East area, Viper's angry voice resounded. His assistant came to inform him that his company was about to be merged and acquired. There was also the butler who was always by his side at this time, but suddenly disappeared, making him even more angry. Viper ordered his assistant to quickly gather all the shareholders here. Seeing the assistant hesitate, he shouted, "Go now, he is about to lose the company." The assistant at this time replied in a low voice that he could not. His safety depends on this place that can't leave, and the shareholders can't come here. At this moment, both Kong Wu and Mu Jin burst in from both sides. Not long after that, Mad Pin's men also arrived. Leaving these people to Kong Wu to handle, Mu Ji chased after Viper. On the other side, the leader was Red Shot, who did not expect that the person he would confront again was Kong Wu. In his mind right now, there was only one question: why Kong Wu? Kong Wu, when he met them, didn't say much and attacked. Red Shot was dumbfounded by the power just now. Almost all of them died. Kong Wu stopped and looked at him as if the two of them had met before. When he heard that, he shouted that it was the current Red Shot who was scared. Kong Wu feels that this guy is as talkative as people say. That kind of arrogance is really sick, Mu Jin said before. Before coming here, Mu Jin showed him all the information about the evil Xinhua district. Kong Wu asked him if he was the boss of Namkong, but was defeated by Mu Jin and ran away crying. The angry Red Shot kept cursing the bastard. Laughing Ghost standing behind told Red Shot not to get excited. He just used a wide-range skill, he must have run out of mana. The two planned to fight Kong Wu to consume mana, or they would win. Kong Wu laughs and talks well. If two people hit well, they can endure up to 10 seconds. He also didn't have much time for the two of them. Laughing Ghost picked up his sword and ran over. He would tear this mouth first. Red Shot stood outside watching the two fight and thought that a man running low on mana possessed such a skill. Laughing used shock from afar to attack. He laughed and asked if Kong Wu couldn't move. Kong Wu calmly stood there and asked him if he had the remote control. He was very confident with this skill that no matter how strong a person was, he would be defeated by this skill. He asked Kong Wu if he knew who he was, or why he had such a name. Kong Wu didn't pay attention to their question. He said it himself for 10 seconds. Then exit control and attack a circuit that harms both of them. Villezone, Xinhua District, East, Mu Jin on the way to chase Viper was stopped. Mu Jin stopped to watch her speak openly about her disparity as if she wasn't an assassin. Jiu Incio jumped down from a tall building. She said she had been waiting for this day forever. Villezone in Xinhua District, twin girls standing outside worried about Mu Jin. Oat told her brother that if he was that worried, the two of them would go inside and fight. Royal hurriedly called their names from afar. He asked the Emperor and Kong Wu how are they. I think even though they're reckless, this is crazy. Wanting to catch Viper, they intend to confront Xinhua on their own. He is sure this is because of Kong Wu's manipulation. Royal informed the two girls that the remaining vassals would soon arrive. The three of them all saw someone coming to this side at a fast speed. Royal saw that person clearly before shouting, "How dare Kong Wu leave Mu Jin alone and run away like that?" Aroma says it's not Cassian, but another named Black Ghost, Cassian's subordinate. After receiving the first challenge, Mu Jin asked her if she could do it next time. She had important work to do. Jiu Seo said no, she waited forever for this opportunity. This is her chance to defeat the most evil sword Mu Jin. This match will become the victory of the swordsman Jiu Seo. After listening to this, Mu Jin burst into a silly laugh, less delusional. Jiu Seo wanted to say a few things before the match. It also doesn't matter that she can control the wind, so when she fights there will be swirls around. With enemies, it will be a bit annoying because they will slow down the enemy. Mu Jin asks her if she is crazy and goes to tell her advantage to the enemy. In fact, Jiu Seo wanted to fight fairly, since the previous losers made excuses to insult her about this. Mu Jin said she was worrying too much because she definitely wouldn't lose. The battle went on for a while when Mu Jin was secretly caught by Mad Pin with a net. When Jiu Seo saw everything clearly, he was very angry and asked him to let go, otherwise he would die. Kong Wu arrives in time to save Mu Jin. He says she doesn't need to worry because he will be the one to deal with them first. Mad Pin thought it was troublesome. He thought that just Red Shot and Laughing Ghost would be enough to deal with Kong Wu. But it doesn't matter, the outcome won't change, you just need to use the evil trump card. Jiu Seo said she wants to leave. People can do whatever they want to make her stop fighting now. A person behind shouted that if she left, things would be troublesome. But that's because they jumped out to destroy her match. Gu Xiao chose a nearby corner to sit down, turned around and told the crowd that she would sit here to watch. Mad Pin told the person next to her to ignore her, but he was able to stop Mu Jin anyway. Mad Pin said that Mu Jin looked calm, but in fact she had just suffered a very serious injury. If he continued to fight, Mu Jin would be overpowered, so everyone just had to deal with Kong Wu. When Kong Wu heard that everyone was doing what he wanted, he laughed and said he was the prey and he was the hunter. Python now said that he was as arrogant as rumored. He reminds you that overconfidence is deadly poison. Kong Wu refused to give up and asked if his big guy was Python. With such a large body, he was still defeated by Money King. It is said that even though he was beaten badly by Money King, he still fought fiercely. Being rumored like that, still showed his face. Moro said he was a god of encouragement. Python said he wanted to provoke him, but he would definitely pay the price. A person who only knows how to speak loudly is very suitable to attend a rehabilitation class, and then you will taste the feeling of helplessness. He added more respect and let him know that he wouldn't be able to last more than 5 seconds. Kong Wu just laughed until he went up to ask for 2 moves to defeat Python, making everyone there look at him without blinking. Mad Pin now takes advantage of the time when people are not paying attention and runs away.